Hello, everybody. Welcome back to OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. You're used to Sierra Dawn doing the intro, but Sierra is nowhere to be found right now. I am Joe Brown, one of your hosts of the OHKO podcast, and I'm joining the Justin Burst right now, as Justin Carris and Justin Burns are filling in as co-hosts for one Sierra Dawn. She's on her way. She'll be here at the end of the episode. Don't worry. She'll be here to talk about her whole Liverpool Regional experience and some of the other things going on. But for now, I've got Justin v. Justin. We'll start with Justin Carris. Justin Carris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Joe. Thanks for the invite. In case you don't know who I am some dude who plays Pokemon with a great first name for Pokemon specifically. Long history of Justin's succeeding in this game. Justin Burns is the co-host here is like, oh my goodness, his resume. Don't look at it. It'll make you feel bad. I have made a habit of not looking at people's really good resumes sometimes, because then I'm like, wow, mine is not that great. But I've done a couple things here and there. I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point.
Yeah, and I've known Justin Carris since like 2015, going way back, almost a decade now at this point, which is just crazy. I think I met Justin Burns in maybe 2017, 2018. I'm not really sure the first time we met, but whenever I first laid my eyes upon the Justin Burns, I became an instant fan right away. That's, oh, Captain, my Captain. You know what I mean? I'm the leader of the fan club for a reason. So Justin Burns, it's an absolute pleasure to have you come on our podcast.
Hey guys, I'm very excited to be here. As I said, I'm Justin Burns. I've been playing VGC since about the same time as Carris, of the 2014-2015. And I've done pretty well. Carris is, of course, he's done pretty well too. We both, it's pretty awesome that just everyone named Justin is just so good at Pokemon. It's really exciting.
It's a fact too. Everybody named Justin is just like very good at the game. So
yeah, poor
Justin Knox is another example.
Poor Justin Tang. He's just sitting at home, like watching with popcorn. Like, oh no, the meeting of the Justins is. We'll bring Tang on. We have a lot of requests for Justin Tang, so he'll get onto the OHKO eventually. But for now, we'll focus on, the two Justins at hand right now. And for anyone who wants to know how the show's going to run, just going to have some fun conversations going over, current VGC history, as long as some of our guests' accomplishments and other things going on in both Pokemon and just, fun stuff. It should be a good time. And then at the end of the episode, whenever Sierra finally gets home, we're going to record all of her stuff. So this is the boys' conversation right now. But we do have to start with something that is Sierra related. And I think you guys need to know, this is the story that just will not stop. And it is Sierra's attack on the Legends Arceus community. Because it's still going on.
I support it. I fully support it. I have never been more bored by a Pokemon game in my entire life.
Now,
okay, so I was going to ask,
this might have to be our first topic for the Justin v. Justin, because I love Legends Arceus. I had so much fun with that game. I played, I 100% it when it came out. I think last summer when, we got Regulation D or whatever, and we were like, well, we've got to get, an Amorous, because we thought it might be good because it had some really sick stats and a cool ability. So I went and I played through the whole game again because I'd already caught one with like kind of bad stats.
You played it twice?
Yeah, I played through the whole thing twice.
I'm so sorry.
I was playing through it and I'm like, wow, this is still really fun. I still love this game, and it didn't feel like a chore. I 100%ed it again. I got my I did the 100% on the research tasks, so I could get the shiny charm when Hisui and Arcanine was really good, because I wanted to get a shiny Arcanine.
The Pokemon in it are good. The Pokemon, I think they're good. It's not the gameplay loop though. I did not enjoy it. I think that the catching mechanic was really fun, but as a game, I think I soiled it for myself. And this is why I fully support Sierra, even though it's probably biased. In preparation for Arceus, I was like, okay, I've never really played like a full Zelda game. I've never done like one of these open world things. I need to prepare myself And one of the few games that I tried experimenting with before it came out was Monster Hunter Rise. And I've never played a Monster Hunter game, but I played Monster Hunter Rise, and it's a weird experience. I've never cried over a video game being so much fun. And it's not like the game has been so great that it wasn't just such a great game that I was like, oh my goodness, tears rolling out of my eyes. But I was playing the game, and one single tear fell out of my eye, because all I could think is, this game is so much better than any Pokemon game I've played, barring maybe Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky.
Wow.
And it just bothers me. I'm like, anytime I play other good video games, it hurts me, because Pokemon games do not compare. The competitive battling engine is the only thing that I'm really here for anymore. And Arceus, it just felt so bland in comparison to a game that I have no context for the lore of. I have no context for the mechanical systems. I played Monster Hunter Rise for 3 weeks and enjoyed so much of it. I played Arceus for 5 hours. I was like, this is still a tutorial, and I stopped.
I mean, that's kind of a fair thing. If you play Monster Hunter Rise, it's like, well, this is just so much better. Which is fair. I think more development time definitely does go into games like that.
They're the same type of studio, though. If anything, Pokemon probably has more resources and funding. That's what hurts me. They're not a small indie dev.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, because we're in this weird situation with Game Freak where they quite literally have the most profitable franchise on the planet, yet the Game Freak development staff, I think, is 200 people or less. So it's you are the most successful company on the globe, and yet you only have 200 people that work there. So when you're trying to make Arceus and Scarlet and Violet and new Pokemon Snap and Detective Pikachu 2 and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and it's just being split up in so many different ways, I think that's what kills me with Arceus, Legends Arceus, because I think I'm in the middle on your sides. I think in the moment when I first played it, I loved it, and it was a breath of fresh air, and it was totally different. But now when you go back, when I had to go back to catch Ursaluna and catch all these other things, it was a slog compared to Scarlet and Violet.
That's the word I would use, exactly.
Is it fair for me to hold that against it, Burns? Because technically it came first. It is the prehistoric, precursor to Scarlet and Violet. So all the things we love in Scarlet and Violet, like the catching and the overworld battles and everything, I have to owe the, Legends Arceus had to walk so Scarlet and Violet could run, right?
It didn't even walk. It limped. And then don't get me started on Scarlet and Violet. I could probably do 2 hours of just complaining about the development of these games.
I can't defend that one there.
Because yes, they're stretched too thin, and I think that's fair. But we're competitors, right? We build Pokemon teams with good Pokemon. Would you use a Pokemon that just has potential but doesn't land any of that potential in your games? No, you're not going up to a tournament with Slitherwing, because it's not going to win you games. I can't be like, wow, Slitherwing would have great potential if I can get its attacks off, and then kind of just forgive it and be like, yeah, it really was an important part of this team. That's how I feel with a lot of Pokemon games, and it's not like they're incapable of doing it. XD Gale of Darkness, Pokemon Coliseum, Mystery Dungeon. I think pretty much most of the Mystery Dungeons are fantastic. It's just the mainline series. The last story we got, that was great. Arceus, I get it. I get the intention. I think it was a little bit too ambitious. It was a little bit empty, and it just pales in comparison to other games. So I think Sierra is so valid. Let's keep dunking on all the people that appreciate the game. I'm sorry, Justin, but one on the board for Team Anti-Arceus.
Wow. The Justin v. Justin matchup. He's declaring himself the winner. Burns, you got to come back.
Yeah, look, I know, Game Freak there. I have, my bone to pick with them too. But I think the Arceus, all the gameplay stuff they added is, really, really fresh, and I think they can build off of it. And I think, maybe if they realize, hey, we're not really, giving it our full efforts, let's try to, I don't know, make a game that, people really like the idea of, but if you can, with more polish and more, kind of more meat in the game. I think it can be the predecessor to like a truly great game.
Now, Karis, would you be interested in, let's say they, put a full development staff on it and they get more, they hone their crafts better. Would you be interested in a Legends Johto, a Legends Celebi, a Legends Kyurem, whatever type of sequel, or is just that kind of Pokemon game, you're just out on the concept to begin with?
There is no out on a Pokemon game. I bought Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I bought Arceus. I bought Sword and Shield. I bought the DLC. I bought Scarlet and Violet. I literally purchased every single Pokemon game, mainline series, and almost every single spinoff. They have me by the neck. Okay? That's the PG version of this. They have me by the neck, and it is very long, and they have very firm grip on my neck.
Okay.
So
We'll
yeah,
say I
they
did
got
not
me.
buy Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, but that's a different conversation entirely.
Did any of you? I don't know if you played during Showdown during the BDSP era, or maybe in game. I know there were some draft leagues and stuff. I think there could have been a world that if we had that year on BDSP, we go back to 2008, 2009 VGC, that could have been fun for me. I don't know about you guys.
I think it would have been a great year.
The first day it was on Pokemon Showdown. I was building a rain team, right? I was just like, I'm gonna be a little silly. I'm gonna use Politoed and Pelipper and Kingdra and Ludicolo. And I was like, well, what do I want my last two to be? And I was like, I don't really care. So I brought those four to a Showdown room tour, and I won it. And then I never touched the format again.
I played in a couple of the online tournaments for it, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the format a lot. It was a little bit difficult to adjust to the lack of options in the building. You kind of just took how much power can I put into these Pokemon, because you lose every gimmick. There's no Dynamax, no Z moves, no Terrestrialization, no Mega Evolution. So the power level steeply falls off. We also lose a lot of defensive options too, because Dynamax in a way could be a defensive option, Terrestrialization, defensive.
And you only have the first 4 generations of Pokemon.
Yeah, there's no Incineroar, there's no no Amoonguss. So I'm trying to do the best recall that I can on that meta, but I was using Staraptor, Gastro, Slowking, with Final Gambit, and then you go for a Trick Room setup. I'm a big Slowking guy. It's one of my favorite, Pokemon. I think that honestly is probably going to be my answer to our fun question when it comes up. We might even want to shift to that now, so we don't get too lost in the BDSP meta stuff, because again, we can talk about that forever. Yeah, I think the meta was good, but it was cool to experiment with restriction. I always think Pokemon as a competitive game gets much more fun when you lose options. When you add them, if we have access to everything, it's hard to outdo stuff like Incineroar, Zacian, Urshifu, Fluttermane now, especially. I don't know how they're ever outdoing Fluttermane. Good luck.
Yeah.
I guess you could make a 135 attack, 135 defense, 135 speed Paradox, just to be the opposite of Fluttermane, and obviously I guess Ghost Fairy in that combination would be kind of crazy. Maybe you'd have to bring Incineroar back. You'd have to always have those Intimidators to stop those stats there. But I think if we talk about the dex limitations, I know something that Alex Underhill, when he was on our podcast, talked about the regional dex formats in 2014, 2017, 2020, early beginnings of Scarlet and Violet as well. I want to get your guys' thoughts, as you're both, regional champions. You played through many different formats of VGC, and now we kind of have this rotating format system where they kind of give us a little bit added on every couple of months. And we'll start with you, Burns. What are your thoughts on how VGC's handled now, where it's constantly changing, compared to, say, 2017, Alex Underhill's favorite year, where the same 400 Pokemon, or 390, whatever it was, are available, and that's it, and they're available for the entire 12 months? What type of style do you prefer?
So I think I prefer the longer formats, and this might tie into some of the things that Justin Carris has said on Twitter lately about how quickly metagames develop, and I think part of that is because, we have these tiny formats that get, compressed into the span of a few months, and we've got to, try and hurry up and solve them for like whatever big tournament of the format. And you obviously don't get to spend much time on, any particular format. So it can get pretty volatile, and it can, it's tough. And I think we're seeing some of that. I think we're seeing some of that, like, kind of player exhaustion, like, right now already. I mean, we're not even a full. We're barely a full month into this format, and everyone's just all so tired already.
It varies. It varies by the format. At its core, the format can be very influential on how fast the metagame moves. I think Regulation F is probably the fastest we've experienced in Scarlet and Violet, or at least just Generation 9 in general. But I'm kind of at a impasse on this one because I think there's a lot of benefits we get from the rotating format structure, even though I personally hate it. The benefit is that it keeps things fresh. Like, Series 2 or Regulation B was one of my favorite formats ever. And then we went to one of my least favorites, which was Regulation C. And it wasn't that it was a bad format. I'm just not like the biggest fan of the Ruin Pokemon, and they really dominated that metagame. And like, it's not, so there's some type of in-between that I would really love, where we get like a decent amount of time with the format. It's hard to kind of tell with the maturity of like a format, like when it reaches its end. Like in Series 2, I don't feel like there was anything left unexplored. Truly, like I felt like we had exactly the amount of time that we needed for it because I won the last tournament for it. So I am the world champion of Series 2, as the people in my building group like to say. And jokes aside, I genuinely do think that we got like the maximum out of that format, and I'm only able to enjoy it the way that I do because it finished in like the time that it did. Kind of like human lifespans, like life is short and sweet. But there are definitely cases where it's been way too short. Series 1 is one of the best examples. We had like 6 weeks with that format. And when they announce it is also important. Like how quickly we know when the next format will be rotating to, like, there's no break. It's like you get 6 to 12 weeks of a format, and then they announce it 2 weeks before the format changes. But if they announce it a month before the format changes, the participation levels drop because there's a new ladder. People are like, oh, I'm not going to X amount of regionals. I feel like NAIC last year was a great example of this, where we got the most wild format change I've ever seen, extremely disruptive. And the ladder before the tournament like was gone. It was only in-house testing. Everybody was either hiding their NAIC ideas or they were practicing Regulation D because it was completely new, and we had to figure it out as fast as we possibly could before Worlds. So there's man, again, I could talk a lot about this topic in particular. The last element, though, I'll close on is I do not think that the game right now is designed to handle how quickly the formats rotate. I make my teams. It takes a while. And if something changes the week before a tournament and I got an Iron Crown and I spent X amount of my Poke dollars in the game on vitamins and stuff, and re-EVing it, I have to do Ogre Ousting. That's like a 30-minute escapade. I don't really have like 30 minutes in the end of my night, or that cuts into my practice time.
I do like the rotating formats, and I do think that there is value in keeping it fresh, quote unquote, whatever you want to say with that. But I do think we have somewhat kind of lost some of the magic of a developing format, and like seeing a strategy in, let's say, November, like let's say Sun and Moon comes out in November, and seeing what was being played then. Like I'll always remember 2017, the good stuffs like Gyarados, Alolan Marowak, Tapu Lele, Tapu Koko, like just like that like good stuff 6 that everyone played at the beginning of Sun and Moon, and it was nowhere to be seen by the end of the 2017 Worlds. And I think we've kind of lost that, and that makes me sad because I like seeing the development of the meta. However, you guys don't think Regulation A was long enough, or Series A, whatever we call it at the time. I don't think I could have stood 12 months of Regulation A. I think I would have went crazy with the Murkrow, and Hydreigon had 15 different Terra types, and Dondozo had way less answers that were available. So that's one of the benefits to me is like, if you don't like a format, if you like Justin didn't like Regulation C, like I just come back in 2 months is not a great answer, but at least it is an option now.
I think it's better for the game that we rotate, because like one of the main objectives of VGC is it has to grow. We need a player base. It's getting bigger than ever. And I think that the rotating formats is helping that. We're not sticking in a terrible format for a long time. But at the same, on like the converse side of that is you're not enjoying the most out of the best formats that you get. And again, I think that there's happy accidents. We're getting like that lifespan of Regulation B that I talked about. I think that was a happy accident. Regulation A not being 7 months long is a happy accident. We kind of closed the door on that probably quickly. It's also exacerbated a little bit by Terra, because Terra makes things like the meta can shift a lot because X Pokemon decides to switch to Terra Fairy, for example, or Terra Dragon. Like we started seeing Terra Dragon because of Ogerpon coming into the game on like Goldengo. Then that was like a big development, but you know, that could shift things a week before the meta, and you might need to get new Terra shards. You might need to recomp your team. And the reason I said that the game isn't like fully designed for that like type of shift is it's not the easiest thing to just completely change your team. If I wanted to go get a Blood Moon Ursaluna before Charlotte, it would have been a nightmare. And literally that restricts my ability to pick up a viable option. It would have been so difficult for me to get the type of Blood Moon Ursaluna I needed and then test it and then practice. It's just, again, it doesn't feel built to handle too rapid of a change.
Yeah, and I think the biggest example of what you mentioned about Terra was like, you know, the Gavin crew that was testing Rain for Worlds. They like Regulation D was so like changing so rapidly because we had only like a few weeks to test for the World Championships, that it was like changing every week. And then suddenly Iron Hands goes from everybody's running Terra Grass to everyone's running Terra Water.
Yep.
Within like, you know, between like July 20th and July 30th.
That was a really big shift, and it happened very quickly.
That completely messed up get the Rain team they were working on, because that just made the Iron Hands so much harder to deal with.
Yeah, that's definitely it's an interesting point in how sometimes teams or sometimes archetypes can bring a meta forward, but then other times just the oversaturation or what performs well, right? So like, let's get into the side spam conversation, because obviously
it is a buns. It is so bad. Do not use side spam.
So Justin Carris kind of infamously posts a tweet talking about how side spam is buns, and only a good player, or the only way side spam can get results is if a good player plays it. And I knew right away, because I know Justin, I knew right away that meant that Justin was playing side spam in Charlotte. And I did tweet, I didn't respond. I was like, hey, let him have the element of surprise. Everyone thinks that, you know, side spam is bad. But like, did you know in that moment when you hit send on the tweet, had you already confirmed with Toller and the crew that you were going to play side spam?
I knew I was using Iron Crown when they announced this design. I literally tweeted it so long ago. I was like, I cannot wait to use this Chronicle of Narnia's looking deer. Because I just think it looks so cool. And genuinely, hardcore buff for Pokemon is, if you like the way a Pokemon looks, it is so much easier to use it on your team. You get a natural buff because you feel like it's your little buddy. Or it's a really cool Pokemon, as that like maybe that Shadow the Hedgehog aesthetic. Maybe that's why people are a little bit too into Incineroar. Maybe we don't need to go down that road, but
we definitely don't need to go down the Incineroar, Lucario, Lycanroc, Delphox road.
But the real reason I like Psy Spam, or at least just Iron Crown in general, is I have ragged on Psy Spam players for the entirety of Indeedee having Trick Room, like the whole lifespan of that. I think that was a stupid decision. I hate that they did it. But And that archetype is really annoying to have matchups into. It's the whole reason I ran Tyranitar in Series 2. It was like just an auto Psy Spam win. I had like a 95% win rate with that team in the Psy Spam. I think Toller had a 100% win rate. So the main change, though, with Iron Crown is it's fast. And you have Expanding Force, it's fast, it still has a pretty good special attack stat, and you can run Booster Energy. You can drop the tempo turn that you spend setting Trick Room. And then you don't have to worry about double protects on the last turn of Trick Room, which is also an issue I have with Psy Spam. It's like there's always that like out technically. Like any good player knows how to get to that last turn, even if they're in a bad spot, just double protecting and with like, you know, a booster flutter or something, and then wiping the board with Dazzling Gleam. Taking away that turn of tempo where you have to set the Trick Room, just having it as an option it just makes it so much better. So I knew from the beginning I was running Crown. Like I've literally been testing a Crown team. I'm working on a team report for it on my YouTube channel with all the people that I'm working with. And Toller and Yotam really helped me bring that team to life. Yes, it was a psyop. When I made that tweet, I was trying to change people's opinions. It did not work on Joe Brown, clearly. I may have messed up my ability to spread disinformation from my group, but I thought it was worth it because it was like the only thing I could do to try and get people off of our back.
Burns, what did you think when you saw that tweet? Were you thinking anything was fishy, or did you agree? Yeah, Psy Spam is buns.
I thought it was pretty fishy. I was like, there's no way you can look at it like he was like, I remember he was upset at the meta shifts from VR, and you know, he said Psy Spam is buns, and I'm like, well, if you actually think that, what's the problem? It kind of swept the VR tournament.
They stole my team. That's why. Exactly. They stole my team. I had that team day one.
There's definitely something else going on here. So I was a little suspicious.
All right, let's talk about the whole victory road and the meta evolving too quick, because I think this is a really interesting discussion. You guys are, you know, two of the top trainers in North America who are very well known for team building and team concepts and things. So I think this is a great area to have you two on specifically for. Is we see Regulation F starts in January 4th or something. But of course people are playing it way before that. Once the DLC came out in December, people started testing out all the new options, and Raging Bolt is busted, Raging Bolt sucks, or Gouging Fire is non-existent, Gouging Fire is top tier, right? So everybody mid-December is already prepping for early January, and people are playing online tournaments, and it's not like the Showdown Tour rooms where you're just playing and you win, and people are investing time in game and resources, as Carris talked about. As resources are finite in Scarlet and Violet. Sometimes, even for me, I played in one regional and I had to borrow 3 Pokemon from friends because I didn't have enough vitamins. I didn't have enough, I didn't want to try to get the right items and whatever. So it's tough. If you're going to spend money to play in a tournament with 800 people, you're not just going to throw 6 Pokemon together. You're going to try to have a highly competitive Pokemon. And sometimes we see that happens where everybody's ready and it's like, let me test my Portland team out in this Tommy Tuesday tour or this Victory Road tour, right? And then 4 Psy Spam teams make top 8, or 3
I was so mad.
Blood Moon or Ursalunas make top 8.
So mad.
So
it wasn't just the Psy Spam. It was not just the Psy Spam. It was the worst matchup that we were trying to figure out still. Also won the tournament, the Blood Moon Ursaluna stuff. And like, I knew that was a trigger that was being weighted. That was like, it was inevitable. It was going to get pulled. I knew it was going to happen. But then like, everybody and their mother figured out that Urshifu Single Strike was also good. So it was like, okay, I'm dealing with Incineroar, I'm dealing with POW, I'm dealing with Urshifu Single Strike now.
Karis, we might have lost you here. Burns, you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, he's just lagged a little bit.
Yeah, I can hear you. So last thing we heard you was, and it's going to sound fine. Don't worry, we'll fix it. But you said Urshifu Single Strike. Everyone said Urshifu Single Strike was really good.
Yeah, everyone and their mother started using Urshifu Single Strike. And like it just popped up. The first regional in the entirety of Generation 9 where Urshifu Single Strike out usaged the Rapid Strike version was Charlotte. And I was using a Psy Spam team into all this dark stuff. And all I could hear in the back of my head was Yotam being like, dude, triple dark or double dark, this matchup is tough. Every time we were on ladder, or we played a lot of in-game ladder too, to like just practice, and we did it on like alts and everything. But the main thing, yeah, like that tournament specifically, 4 or 5 of the 6, like the Torn, Urshifu, and Psyspam ended up being on like Roberto Parente's team. I think Alan Martinez had a team up there. And then I don't know if is Abraham Gomez, is that Alex Gomez's father? I was like, I think his father's also named Alex, but I just couldn't remember. So that's the joke I was making. I was like, yo, tell me this team is so good that Alex Gomez's dad just pulled up a top 8 at this big tournament with it. But I apologize if that ends up just being like a loose comparison. It was just the first thing that popped into my head. I just don't know who that is. And I would say congratulations, but you made my life so much more difficult at Charlotte. So actually, screw you. Yeah, that tournament results was really difficult. And we all talked internally. We're like, there was a couple advantages. First thing, I was like, okay, guys, now we can ladder way more with this because everybody's just going to think that we're ripping off these other teams. The major difference was we had Ogrepon Fire. Everybody else hadn't really figured that out yet. And now that the rental is released, I don't know anybody else that came up with this, but me and Toller were like raving about like max bulk Iron Crown, which we kind of really only deduced would work for a lot of our Dondozo lines. Because in order to like really, really shut down the Dondozo matchup in all of its different modes, if you live the wave crash, like there's no 50-50s. You can just like click expanding force. You don't have to Terra. You don't have to do anything. You can sack DD. And we just like literally wrote all of the lines down. It's like, all right, we never lost to Dondozo. Nobody lost to Dondozo at the tournament. It's always on my list. The second is like Psyspam itself. Like the Trick Room versions, we didn't have a way to stop the Trick Room. We could reverse it and we could like kind of damage trade our way out of it, but like Gallade made that a little bit difficult with Wide Guard. So there's a bunch of things that we were trying to figure out, and then Blood Moon specifically was also just so obnoxious because it wipes our team under Trick Room. We were initially actually choice specs. Jacob Mortensen was part of our group for the building. He used the choice specs version and went 6-3, but it was still effective. But the reason that I changed the choice specs is we needed an extra protect. And we changed that 4 days before the tournament, which is not something I'm comfortable doing. We did not have a lot of time to test. I worked like pretty much, I think 13 hours on Wednesday and then 15 hours on Thursday, and driving combined. Like it was ridiculous how much I had to work, and I couldn't use that time properly to fix the matchups that I wanted to. So I had to rely on other people in the building group to do a lot of that work. And that doesn't exactly always translate in a tournament setting. I'm kind of a slow learner when it comes to like Pokemon archetypes. So I felt really held back in a lot of ways by the rotating formats. This was a really extreme example. And Regulation F in general, I think there's just so many options. It's probably the most broad metagame we're going to see in a while.
Now, Burns, do you feel the same way here in the rotating formats kind of, and of course the tournament? So we're talking about like you're working on a team and you feel like you got the spice, and then the cat's out of the bag because a Tommy Tour somebody brought that core that you were thinking for the next event. Do you feel the same way?
So I don't really have strong opinions on it. I definitely appreciate getting to see results from online tournaments. Because I'm a big like looking for inspiration guy. Like I think it was the VR tournament in like at the start of July, like the first big Reg D tournament that I saw. Cress or Saluna had good results, and I'm like, oh well, maybe there is some potential here. So, and then I ended up working on that the whole time until Worlds. And I think the advent of limitless tournaments, like there's like a different tournament every night. I think that's really good for the game because 100%. I think you can just I've got some free time tonight. Let me just play in this limitless tour. And I think about like a year ago, I was unemployed, so I was playing in a lot of those limitless tournaments just because I had the free time. And it was kind of fun to just get to try out different teams, every other day or so. And that's the funny thing is that got me in a little bit of hot water with Wolf, because because I was like, "Yo, Alex, give me whatever you're running," and he's like, Alex is the big Parish fan, so he's like, "Yeah, you can use this Parish team I ripped off of Ladder," and then I unintentionally like entered with it and ended up winning the tournament. And it turns out that it was Wolf's team. But he ended up winning Orlando, so it was still the correct ending for him.
I think you're the only person to get away with stealing a Wolf team and like him being cool with it.
I was gonna say
I think you're the only incidence of that, because you still won the tournament and you didn't do it intentionally. Like, you had no idea. That was definitely that was very funny. It was funny watching it, especially because I knew what the team was, and I was like, I watched you play, I think, Yotam in the tournament. As you won the one with the Iron Hands Gothitelle Parish one. I was like, oh my goodness.
But yeah, gosh, it was funny. I think like a week later, me and Alex were testing for OCIC. We found Wolf was laddering on the same alt, and we're so confused because like, wait, he didn't change alts, like, because we knew it was him, because we ended up finding out, that was who we got the team from, and he was testing out his Jugula stuff that he ended up using at Knoxville, and so we were like, we didn't want to start any trouble, so we messaged like Aaron Trailer and be like, yo, tell your boy to stop laddering on this alt that was already that
it's
people
like,
already should know about.
Have your people talk to my people. Like, we don't want any trouble in the, that's just like so fun. Like, enlighten me on this alt culture and like how Wolf very, very publicly in his videos, like, oh, I had the play for NASE, and then shenanigans happened and all these things. Like, so this is a world that I'm just not really in. One, because I'm never in the 1800s, 1900s on Showdown. I've had the same just one Zemanon Showdown account since 2014. Like, I don't make, Sierra's like, oh, I was playing on my alt and all the ball and all the, and it doesn't make sense to me, because like, clearly you guys are like, oh, he's on his alt, but everybody knows that this is his alt. So then it's not an alt, it's not an alternate account anymore. If I'm making sense, right?
You have you have 50% of what would be a perfect panel to discuss this topic with. All you need is like somebody from Europe and somebody from Japan, because the two of us are in two of like the bigger, I think probably collectively we're in like 4 or 5 of the bigger VGC arms race team building groups, where like you have large aggregate groups of players. I work with Toller, I work with Justin Tang, Sempra. I also work with Wolf, Trailer, Marcus Statter, and like pooling your resources and doing all this. Like, you have to have like a tight network, but you also have to have a very expansive network. It's a weird, delicate balance, and you need to be able to practice getting your reps in, so to say. Like, you have to be able to do your weightlifting with a team. Some people are really naturally talented and can just like see a team, understand how it functions, and then just play the game. But I still think like most people, if not like 90% of the field, needs to get their reps in, and even the best of the best still benefit from that type of practice. And because Pokemon is an information game, there's pride with team creation. There's like, this is my idea. You have to try and hide information. Sometimes people naturally come to the same ideas. Sometimes people steal things, because anybody that sees something that works, or anybody that gets rocked by something in a practice match, they're like, oh, that's mine now. I came up with this. This is brilliant. There's some really, really good examples of this throughout Pokemon history. I think in like 2020, Fake Tears, Whimsicott and Duraludon was something that I had been talking about with Justin Ramirez, who got top 8 at that tournament and then got spanked by Justin Burns in top 8. I made this a little too harsh, but I think you can back that up. You definitely whooped him.
Well, he misclicked and it kind of like spiraled from there.
I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
He definitely probably told me about that, and I just completely forgot. But another Justin, also
another top player, Justin. Yeah,
Justin.
There's just too many of us, man.
That tournament, we had 3 Justins in top 8. Actually,
we should pitch this to Sony.
You guys can start your own Justin 5-man podcast too.
Yeah, Justin 99. We have our little beep 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 beep. Guys, we're doing a ladder session. I have the most crazy size spam team. And then everybody gets one little message, and it's just Carris being like,
So
buns.
how does everybody find out then? Because like, Burns, you're like, oh, I ran into this and I was like, oh, Wolf is on his alt. Like, how do people find out whose alternate accounts belong to what then if people aren't announcing it publicly?
So there's a lot of factors that go into it actually. Like team style. I think if you're like real known for using something and you see like, oh, somebody's using
Don't say it. You're going to use the NAIC example.
No,
Don't do it.
I mean, no, I'm trying to think of like,
Oh, you're struggling.
I mean, yeah.
I took his answer out of his mouth, so he's not going to use it.
I'm trying to find one from last year that was like,
Gavin teams are pretty like Gavin-esque.
Oh, Gavin was like was complaining about how everybody knew it was him as soon as he makes a new alt. Because he was the rain guy.
Yes.
And so
also, he has the best usernames. So
yeah, I would. Yeah, team style. Maybe if somebody has like a habit of making specific alt names, you can kind of tell it's them. What time of day they're laddering, or like you can look at the ranking and see the win loss, the elo, the GXE.
If you ever see something with a high GXE, it's Wolf. Yeah, that's usually like a dead giveaway. You're like 85%. I would also say like there's another really good recent example of this with Billy the Vicavolt. I'm sure you know about this, Burns.
Oh yeah, Scott.
So I think it was Scott Iwafuchi was using a P2 Tinglu team on ladder. And then sure enough, like a couple days after it became popular and got to like second or third or maybe even first on the ladder, Alex Gomez and Eric Rios were using that exact 6 in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And
so
they both made day 2 with it.
They actually, like,
they didn't make it out of day 2 with it, but they made day 2 with it.
I talked with Scott a bit, and he alt revealed after Charlotte. So he posted on Twitter, yes, I am Billy the Vicavolt. And I think Alex and Eric were very last second trying to figure out a team. And I think they ran into him on ladder and thought that looked really good. And they knew who to message because he alt revealed, I guess. Or maybe they just messaged the alt directly. But
it's obviously an unfortunate situation. We don't have to get into all the additional things because they're some of the top players in the game. But if we talk about Liverpool, which did just happen, as we said, Sierra is, as of recording, on her way home from the Liverpool Regional Championships. We have Antonio Sanchez getting the victory for Spain, and this is now back-to-back big regional wins for the Wolf 6 that we saw from Charlotte here into Liverpool with Ogerpon, Hearthflame, Fluttermane, Incineroar, Urshifu, the Farigiraf, and the Rillaboom as well. So I think, I want to get your guys' take on, I guess, just Liverpool as a whole, and then we can preview Knoxville, go a bunch of different conversations. But for now, just focusing on Liverpool, we'll start with Burns. Are you surprised that this same exact team was able to win 2 large events in a row, or is it just so solid that it's not a surprise to you?
I'm not really surprised. Like, Antonio's a really strong player, and the team's obviously really strong, and he had the resources available because, Wolf put all his replays and matchup information on Patreon that, it was I imagine it was pretty easy for him to pick up and play with and do well with. And he kind of barely squeaked into top cut, but he had a really good stretch of games where he just played super well against some of the best players in Europe.
I have a question for you, Burns.
Sure.
You can plead the fifth on this one, but do you guys have like a Wolf Patreon buyer for the team paste?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I will say that I have seen people post the paste in semi-public discords, but it was outside of my main group, so I don't actually know who was the original source for that.
Gotcha.
Grilling my president here, Carris.
Well, hey, he doesn't. You can also cut this out too. I don't if it's
I was
inappropriate
just
or
kidding.
anything, or if he wants it cut out. But
Antonio did pay for it himself, though.
yeah,
I
mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna get information. There's a lot in there. It's not like I'm expecting people to go buy it and then leak all of it. I was just curious. I feel like it's very easy to just be like, here's the paste. One guy paid for it. 300 people can have it.
I mean, I've seen the paste without paying for it, but I don't know who the source was.
I think it
But
also
even
has
with-
in his Patreon. It has video replays too, where he's like talking through stuff. So like, I'm not sure of that. I haven't seen it myself. But there's value add where it's like he can content ID stuff. So like, there's a reason to still pay for it, even if you have like the paste, like the notes and all that stuff. I think it's kind of an underutilized idea in VGC. Not that I want to bring more paywalling into the game, but I mean, basically, if you're getting kind of like you're getting tournament prep from a top level player, and Wolf's case, like, it feels extremely worth it, especially for the price.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think just even in general, Wolf's Patreon and some of the other content, like obviously he doesn't win every regional, but it seems like he's always in contention, right? When you watch Wolf's YouTube videos and he'll make it to top 8 or top 16, or I think he day 2'd every event he went to last year or something like that. So, like it's definitely worth it from either a new player or a experienced player just to get that experience from him and that information. But also the internet just kind of sucks because like, I don't think Wolf's tweet, there was nothing wrong with his tweet. Like after Antonio won, in my opinion, at least, like Antonio won. It was a cool story that not only did the same team win 2 in a row, but Antonio was a Patreon patron, right? It's not a subscriber, patron of Wolf's and received the information by being a part of Wolf's Patreon. Like, I think that's an awesome story. And then like the internet just has to like willingly misinterpret everything for no reason. Like Wolf didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, I didn't have any problem with the tweet. And Antonio himself thought it was pretty funny too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people never give me a hard time on Twitter, so I don't understand.
Nobody ever misinterprets. It
must just be a Wolf thing.
I don't know if you want to go down that road or not, but
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, let's get back to Liverpool. Okay, well that was a good one. So obviously there's a lot of great people. I was also bummed because for our predictions for Liverpool, I predicted Eric Rios to win the whole thing. So I was like, oh darn my pick. I've also picked you two before, by the way. I predicted Justin for Pittsburgh, and then you couldn't even make it because the weather got in the way. I picked Justin Carris for Charlotte. Also,
dude,
I wanted the back-to-back.
That's the only time so wait, am I the only person to ever beat the smart money curse? Let's go.
No. I picked you for. We didn't have a podcast last year. I picked you for this recent Charlotte. So I'm just saying, I've had faith in both of you.
I let you down
before, and you let me down. I mean, Justin, it's not your fault. The weather was
United Airlines let you down.
True.
I did feel really good about that tournament, though. I think.
That makes it even worse.
Pittsburgh?
I mean, I gave the team to Jody, and he picked it up in less than a week. And I had basically been playing it for 2 months. And he got top 8 with a Cresselia that didn't even have the right lunar move.
Lunar dance. I'll never forget.
Lunar dance Cresselia, never forget. Obviously, we had cases in Liverpool where people made it into top 8 with just 4 Pokemon. Like, how do you even plan it? You have to be such a great player that your opponent knows your 4 Pokemon and you're still winning sets. That's insane.
I will not let this be a "you're so good" thing. Okay, in my opinion, you have to get unbelievably lucky to do this. I want to hear it from these people that did this. Okay, tell me that you didn't get lucky like crazy, either with matchups or your opponents just played terrible. There's no way that these people were just yeah, we're smoking you with exactly the 4. Anybody that plays with 4 Pokemon, I'm never losing to somebody with 5 or 4 Pokemon in my life. So that's the real luck. You didn't play me. You didn't play somebody competent. I need to see records. I want receipts. There's no way.
I see gameplay.
Because Desu was in top 8,
How does it happen?
Right? With 4 Pokemon?
How many sets did they win? Believe, imagine you have your opponent's team sheet, so you know all the sets of the Pokemon. You know what 4 they have to bring. You're telling me you can't come up with a guaranteed game plan against you pretty much know what they have to do to beat you.
I don't know. I just thought it was pretty iconic when the team sheet came up on screen. He was holding the fours up. I thought
Yeah,
It definitely is.
that was hilarious.
It's something Clay Thompson does all the time, but it's a lot more cringe when he goes like this: 1, 2, 3, you know.
Yeah.
But when Dester did it, it was hard. It went so hard.
Oh man. I guess we can talk about the metagame, right, in Liverpool, because the biggest development since the start of Regulation D was that on day 2, Urshifu Rapid Strike did not make the graphic, which kind of like sounded the alarms as to, I don't know if it's a format change or if people are just kind of fed up or everyone just likes Dark Urshifu more, but like, how does that happen? Because I feel like it's like 40% of the field every single event, and then it ends up not even being one of the top 12 most popular Pokemon.
Well, if you look at the same graphics, there's a big number 2 that that Urshifu Rapid Strike has to deal with, and that's Ogerpon Wellspring. So like it's a very hostile meta to Urshifu, and I'm honestly kind of surprised that this development didn't happen in like Regulation E.
There's an iceberg to it. I think I could actually break it down. The Regulation E, Fluttermane toned down a good bit, and part of that was because Rillaboom got Grassy Glide, and a lot of teams didn't have. A lot of teams could just run like Urshi Rapid Strike. The meta really revolved around like Torn Ursh and Rillaboom and like Sash Pout. There's just so much that like Fluttermane did not enjoy dealing with. And you couldn't always run an Intimidator on the field, and you didn't really have like a real Intimidate pivot. A lot of the Arcanine teams that were being used, like Arcanine was offensive, and Lando also, again, into those teams, not the greatest. You can't switch in Lando into an Urshifu. But Incineroar is much easier to pair with Fluttermane. So Fluttermane can skyrocket again. It has kind of like it doesn't have to run as much physical bulk, so it can go faster. And Fluttermane is much more flexible again. So there's like this iceberg where as Fluttermane gets more popular, and we also added Raging Bolt. Like there's a million different factors that are really impacting it. I didn't think Raging Bolt was going to be as impactful as it was to the presence of Urshifu in the metagame for like the Rapid Strike version, but I think it's having a pretty substantial effect. It's not just Wellspring. It's a lot of Wellspring, but there's other factors in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think Liverpool, we're also starting to see the response to Urshifu Single Strike getting more popular. We're seeing a lot more Terra Fairies, like Terra Fairy Golden Go, Terra Fairy Raging Bolt, things of that nature.
Terra Fairy Porygon also, right? That's when you see that sometimes. So like, I think Liverpool has just been interesting. Charlotte and Liverpool, really, if you combine the two of them, because in both events, so Chien Pao, very popular Pokemon. Everybody loves Chien Pao. And both Charlotte and Liverpool had fell off of top 12. And I think that's such a weird thing that it's so prominent, and maybe it's fallen because Urshifu Rapid Strike is fallen, because usually you want that Sword of Ruin so that the Surging Strikes can do more damage or something. But like to see them both like kind of fall off in unison is interesting, as so many other special attackers pick up like Landorus Incarnate and Raging Bolt and Farigiraf, like Life Orb or Throat Spray. Fluttermane's back up into the 60% on usage. So like, maybe it's just not a world that Chien Pao and Urshifu Rapid Strike can be comfortable in right now. Like, what happens in Knoxville? Do we readjust the circle and they become super popular again, or are they're just going to be missing from it?
You know what's crazy? I'm looking at the top 16 of this tournament, and in the top 16, there was only 4 Incineroar, but 3 of them were in the top 3.
That's funny.
And Rapid Strike won the event, but not without being one of the top 12 most popular, so.
Yeah. So I think
people don't know what the heck they're doing, man. I think that's what it is. Nobody knows what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I think Chien Pao in particular, there's a lot of stuff that's like hostile towards it. It's now it's competing for a slot with the the dark type Urshifu. It's obviously not great into Incineroar. It's honestly not good into Psyspam. Just because now we have like Tachyon Cutter, the set you can't really get around having your getting killed through Sash. Because now Tachyon Cutter can just hit it twice.
It's actually a roll if you're not max attack, not
really?
max special. Yeah, I know this because Psyspam is buns, but I still use it. Yeah, Tachyon Cutter, even with booster special attack, you need 252, and then it's only right there. If you don't run 252, we ran 220 modest, and it's like 95 to 115. Like it's like a
that's surprising.
16 roll, I think, or 14 and 16.
Yeah,
so you can start running like special defense on your Dark Urshifu. That's a metagame development that they should be doing. But
yeah, I think there was a pace spin that had I think it was like 84 special defense EVs on the Urshifu.
What do you need the speed for? Like,
yeah,
what are people running speed for? To outspeed the Ogrepon that are going to outspeed you anyway, because that's what they should be EVing for.
But yeah, I think I also ran like in Regulation E. I ran Qian Pao with a second Dark move over Sacred Sword. Because I felt like that was you had a lot more room to drop the fighting move, especially if you had like Iron Hands on your team or Urshifu on your team. But now you can't really, so Qian Pao is a lot less flexible. And obviously, if you only have Sucker Punch, you can't even hit Iron Crown very well. So I think Qian Pao is just in a really difficult spot right now. And even though it did win the first regional, it's kind of had a drastic fall off because of other developments.
Yeah, Qian Pao is in Ohio right now.
I always heard Ohio was for lovers, but I guess that's might not be the case in Qian Pao's case scenario. But let's talk about Farigiraf, because Sierra's a massive Farigiraf fan. Like, she was popping off like she had just won the Super Bowl when Farigiraf won these last two regionals, because she's been promoting it as such a great Pokemon. Where do you two stand on the Giraffe? Because it feels like one of those divisive Pokemon. Like I'm trying to think of a comp in like previous VGC seasons of a Pokemon that people are like, this Pokemon's dog water, or this is like the greatest glue to add as a sixth Mon. And like, I feel like that's how divisive Farigiraf feels right now. So like, where do you guys fall on the Giraffe standings?
Sierra has excellent taste. I am like Team Sierra opinion all day. The Arceus was on point, and now the Giraffe. First of all, Farigiraf is one of the coolest designed Pokemon, in my opinion. I love its design. I also have a really long neck, so I feel like I get representation in the game. And like, I caught a shiny. That was the first shiny hunt I ever did. Was Farigiraf. I named it Blueberry because it has a blue nose. And I mean, it's won 2 of the last 3 regionals, 4 of the 3 of the last 4 regionals.
Yeah, 3 or 4 if you count Geo and San Antonio.
Get with the program. I used it in Pittsburgh, and the team name that I used for Pittsburgh was Pittsburgh Winning Team. That's how confident I was. It's like one of the best teams I think I've ever built. But Wolf dodged an Icicle crashed against me, so I missed cut. And tough day, but I was close. I was very close.
So I've actually kind of thought about like Farigiraf and it's kind of its progression over the course of Scarlet and Violet, and I think it was really bad the first few series. I think A through C I would never consider using it. D, it starts picking up more because it has there's the
Qian Pao
D-Knight, things like that. And I was thinking about it. Okay, I was just thinking like its stats are like not great, but its ability is really broken. So like, why are people using it a lot? And I think I've started to kind of realize it's probably a Pokemon that's only going to get better as the power level goes up, because it does something so unique in blocking priority and setting Trick Room. And also, we're now getting more Pokemon that can, provide support or like defensive support or like offensive pressure. That you can now afford to have Farigiraf on a team just for its ability and moveset. And I think that's something you see a lot in even when you get to like GS Cup in previous like generations, where sometimes the weaker Pokemon can be a lot better because they do one specific thing that makes the restricted Pokemon they're supporting really good. So I do think, Farigiraf only gets better with, now Incineroar is kind of like, if you wanted to like go for a Trick Room mode, Incin Farigiraf is a really good lead because Incin provides decent offense. It has, Intimidate, Fake Out. It can pivot as you Trick Room into something else. So I think, Farigiraf's just going to get better, in my opinion.
Fari's very good. That was very aptly put.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, I would love to see when GS Cup comes back, and see like Farigiraf take a Precipice Blades. I'd like to see that interaction. How much you have to, invest with Chi and
I love how you immediately go for violence. You're like, how much damage can this thing actually take?
because I think it is fair to talk about like sometimes those understated Pokemon compared to the really high BSTs.
Understated, it's like 550.
Bro,
it has more stats than Incineroar.
Primal Groudon was like 720 or something, all right? Like, that's understanding where I come from, all right?
It's no slouch, but it's got one of the most awkward, like, stat distributions ever.
Yeah, they gave it way too much attack for no reason.
That's the one. Right, okay, so
they expected people to, like, do headbutting strategies or whatever.
That's what's so weird with it, because, like, Sierra and I talked about how now 3 times, that Farigiraf has won a regional. It's been Life Orb on Geo set and now Throat Spray on Wolf set, right? So it's been offensive, but its special attack, like, leaves nothing to be desired. It's not inherently super strong as a special attacker compared to Flutter Mane and all the other things we have in the format. You also don't really invest like Modest 252 because you got to bulk those defenses up because you're going to get hit with so many things that are trying to break your priority and get you knocked out so that they can use E-Speed and Thunderclap and, Crashy Glide and stuff. So you're not even investing in offense. So it's like, it's this Pokemon that doesn't do enough damage. It also, like, almost doesn't live enough from its hits. But the Trick Room is the big difference. And you're a big Trick Room guy, Burns. So, like, that Farigiraf compared how it plays against for Trick Room compared to Sinistcha, compared to Cresselia, compared to Porygon 2, compared to Dusclops. Like, I'm sure you've tried out, like, 20 different Trick Room setters in this generation. And, like, do you feel like Farigiraf it only has 2 weaknesses? It's got immunity to Fake Out. Like, is it the premier Trick Room setter for Scarlet and Violet?
I mean, I think going forward it probably is, right? Because just Armor Tail is just so good, and one of the best ways to stop Trick Room is to Fake it out. They can't get Trick Room up immediately, and it kind of a momentum killer that they have to learn to play around. But yeah, I think with the stats, my main beef is that it's like the HP is like 120, and then the defenses are like 70. So if you just go max HP, it's kind of suboptimal just because you don't get as much out of your returns. But figuring out, okay, how much do I want to give to the defense and how much do I want to give to the special defense is like difficult to figure out.
It's very awkward because, like, you can't intimidate Urshifu. So, like, if you go, like, max special defense, you're not preventing Urshifu from knocking you out on the physical side with, like, patch jobs through intimidate. But then if you invest all the way in max attack, max defense, you just get knocked out by Terra Fairy, Specs, Moonblast.
Yeah,
so
like Meteor Beam.
Yeah. Wait, it takes it out? Meteor Beam?
No. I think the issue was when we were getting our, like, trying to figure out our Fire EV spread for Charlotte, was that the Torn Glim team started using Chi-Yu, and Beads of Ruin Meteor Beam could knock it out.
That's so rude. None of those teams did any of those teams do well except for I guess Steven Mia did.
Yeah, Steven did. I think one got top 16.
I hate teams like that. How do you run that many inaccurate moves?
It's very high rolly, and I think
I don't understand it.
It's funny because if you look at the Charlotte results, I think there was like one in each tier, starting from top 8 down to like top 128. So you can really see, who hit all their moves, who hit most of their moves, who hit some of the moves, and you just kind of go down the list.
Steven, has to be like the opposite of Riley Factura because they completely do different philosophies. Riley has no moves that can miss, and I'm pretty sure Steven doesn't have a single Pokemon with all accurate moves except for like Urshifu.
Yeah, I'm definitely closer to Riley because like I can live with myself if I lose because my opponent played better than me, and we get a 50-50 call. What's the play? And I lose off of my own mistakes, and I can learn from that experience. It's really tough for me to live with myself when I lost because Heat Wave missed 5% of the time, or Nature's Madness missed, or Icicle Crash instead of Ice Spinner. Like it's really tough for me to come back from those misses.
I have an antidote for that. Just go play competitive Smash. Because it'll make you realize that like the BS that we deal with in Pokemon pales in comparison to showing up to a local and playing against a low tier like Zelda player that like knows all these weird niche combos, like especially when you have a job and you're playing against like a high schooler. Oh my goodness, they pull out all of these weird finesse tactics. And you're like, all right, I ain't got time for this. And then I go back to Pokemon and I'm like, yeah, 90% accurate. Like I'm gonna miss some of these.
I thought you were going to bring out like a Game & Watch 9 or something. Is what I thought you were going for.
Too. But honestly, it's more frustrating to lose to the stuff that is like somebody crafted this very specific combo for this very specific situation that you will never see again in your life, except against this one guy. That is much more infuriating.
Okay, what hurts more? Losing to a Game & Watch 9 or losing to a Fissure? Or, Sheer Cold, things like that.
Losing to a Game & Watch 9 is hysterical. You and your opponent bust out laughing. You're like, yeah, this really just happened, bro. Like, I'm like outplayed. You know what I mean? If I'm losing to a Fissure, oh my goodness, I'm getting banned from Pokemon. Like, much, much more frustrating. But that's not what I'm talking about. Game & Watch 9 is much funnier. Like, that's different. That's like a very chance thing. In Pokemon, and you like pick the extremes of both examples. I'm saying like the more frequent thing is like, okay, an Icy Wind, you can't hit every Icy Wind that you go for. I think I lost pretty like to a roll and an Icy Wind dodge in top 8 of Knoxville last year to Justin Tang. But I also got like a Thunderwave para in the game before to bail me out. Like sometimes things go your way, sometimes things don't. You just have to kind of accept that. And I think honestly accepting it is more important because like for a move like Bleak Wind, for example, probably the most toxic move I think ever added to Pokemon. So I would honestly rather have Dark Void back than Bleak Wind being in the game because it is the most infuriating move. It is just inaccurate enough where like if it hits, it's so rewarding. It's so broken when it connects. And in the rain, obviously it's like it's more stable. But when it doesn't connect, it's like so swingy. It's so swingy, and just clicking it a lot means you will connect with it a lot. But when you miss it, it could be really, really bad.
It probably is the most high variance move we've had since Dark Void, because not only can it miss, you can also get a speed drop, or you can just like hit
very impactful.
And sometimes it's a bad speed drop, right? Like onto a King Gambit or something. We see that on stream all the time. Like, oh, please hit, but please don't get the thing that I usually want you to get.
Or you like speed drop something as Trick Room goes up and then it becomes faster than your whole team under Trick Room. Like there's so many situations. So yes, Bleak Wind is extremely high variance. I mean, the odds that you connect both is like what, 64%. And then like to do it in succession. In my Charlotte recap video, I made a very clear point about Nails and their first turn against Jimmy Friedel. They went for... In game 2, they went for Bleak Wind, Sandsear, and then another Bleak Wind and a Power Whip. They connected every single one of those moves. And I was like, dude, the sheer chance of that, it's like that's literally like getting a freeze at that point.
Yeah.
It all connected. I was like, well, you just click those buttons like they're going to hit. Like it is your God-given right.
Yeah, I've had my arguments with Nails over his some of his team choices over the years.
I mean, it's funny. It's funny to me too. It's a very entertaining, but I could never.
I mean, it's working out for him.
On the subject of like you're saying, like sometimes you show up to a Smash local and face like a like a low tier that you just get matchup checked. Well, I think we had some VGC some discussion on Twitter today actually about comparing some archetypes to something like that. Like maybe Dondozo or I don't know, Hard Trick Room, things like that, without trying not to make a slight towards anyone that kind of mains that archetype, but I was just kind of curious.
That's why he's my president, because he's the segue king right there.
That was a good segue.
That was smooth, Justin. All right, so let's move into this topic here, where we don't have to get like too into it with individual people or individual tweets or something, but basically it feels, from my understanding, and you guys are the experts, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like not all team archetypes are created equal, right? Something might be a little bit more difficult to pilot than something else. Like I've seen, I was a big Armors and Didi fan. I'm sorry, Justin or Carris, I'm sorry that I like that. I like that size spam strategy because my games are over in 4 turns, win or loss, and it's fun. It's fun seeing Helping Hand Expanding Force do 200% HP to the 2 Pokemon on the other side. That archetype might not be as difficult or well balanced as like a Palafin, a Mungus Arcanine core like Paul Chua had winning EUIC, right? So let's open this discussion. Like, how do you guys feel about VGC archetypes versus their viability compared to their ease of use? We'll start with you, Karis.
I think that, so Burns, I got to commend you. That was a brilliant segue because the way you framed it was great. Like, it is the exact same scenario. In Smash, there is a common phenomena where using an explored character or heavies is probably the best example of this. If you are a Bowser player, Bowser's not at the top of the meta, probably middle of the pack, maybe a lower high tier or high mid tier. But it's very volatile and pretty consistent against people. It's very consistent against people that do not know the exact game plan into Bowser. And if I were to play Bowser, I don't know anything about Bowser, just my fundies and abusing the broken things about Bowser, I could probably go 3-2, maybe top 8, a 30-person local. Right now, today. With my higher skill, higher precision characters, I'd be lucky to get the same results. And if I really put time and invested into it at the local level, or in online Wi-Fi tournaments, etc., I'd probably have more success spending time on something like a Bowser or a very easy character like Min Min. I actually experienced this type of phenomena with Min Min. People didn't understand the matchup. It was so much easier to matchup check people. The best stretch of Smash local performances I had was with Min Min. I beat several ranked players over the course of 3 weeks in the first picking up Min Min. Because none of them know how to play it. Nobody knew how to play somebody that put time into Min Min. With Dondozo and Sai Spam, as a player that works in an elite building group, and I say elite, Tolar Web just got top 8. We've pretty much always had somebody day 2, except for NAIC. When we participated in these tournaments, we won a regional, multiple, probably 2,000 collective CP among 5 people. We work very hard, and I also work with Wolf and Trailer and Marcus and all these people that prepare very heavily for tournaments. The first thing on my list when I do a team is I make sure, okay, does this auto lose to Sai Spam and Dondozo? That is the first thing I check off because I do not want to lose to somebody that just pulls up, has no idea what they're doing, and clicks 4 buttons and wins the game. Now, no offense to these types of archetypes, it is a valid strategy to play the game. And I think that it's not that simple to win with it in some cases, especially against good players, especially against people that really know what they're doing. I think a great example, somebody that I really respect as a player, is Brian Collins, who brought a Cerro-Ledge / Gallade to Sacramento and got top 8 at that tournament with Sai Spam. That was a very respectable result. And I actually talked to him at that tournament, and we even joked around about how much I hate Sai Spam. He's like, they're just trying to keep Sai Spam players down when he lost his Cerro-Ledge. And I was like, good, bro. I'm so happy to see you guys fail. But I didn't mean it. I like Brian. And I told him, I was like, no, man, I'm like keep pushing, good luck. And then even without the Gallade, like he still made top 8 at that tournament. Now Brian is a great player. I played him in the past, and I think the first time I played him was in Indianapolis, and I had no idea who he was, and it was like my first tournament back in like probably like a year, I think, because of the pandemic. And I was like, whoa, this guy is really good. And it was like game 3. It was really close. It was a banger set. And I respected him from that point. So that gives me a little bit more bias towards his play style. In Sacramento, I really respected that run because like even in a metagame where I didn't think Spam was too strong, he kind of pushed through with it. And I know from experience how difficult in practice it is to use like a Spam team like that at the top level. But there is a caveat to all of this. Both Dondozo and Spam get very lucky in their matchup draws. When you play against somebody that does not have a Dondozo matchup, which is probably one of the most frequent things that teams will not have a good matchup into, in my opinion. Or a Spam matchup is probably like the second most common thing, at least the Trick Room versions. I wouldn't really lump the Crown versions into them yet because they're kind of a different beast. A lot of teams will not have like a way to stop Trick Room. That's why we've seen things like Luca Tragegoot run Trick Room on a Specs Fluttermane. We saw, I think, Emilio do the same thing. Sometimes people run Perish Song on their Specs Fluttermane for Dozo, even though it doesn't really like naturally help too well. It's just a very volatile, easy game to play with those teams. And so it can have very rewarding results. You might beat somebody like a Joe Ugarte or a Riley Factura because they didn't really have a good Dondozo matchup. We've been trying to cover the 96 other archetypes that are in Regulation F. And Chapa himself, when using that team that did well in Portland, said like, yeah, it was like a really, I'm terrible at my Chapa impression, so I'm not going to try one. But he was like, yeah, it was a really good moment for Dozo. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, no bleeping crap, right? So anyway, yeah, you can prey on bad matchups. You can prey on people not having like prep into that stuff. But you're playing the same game every single time almost. You're playing, I'm going to 50-50 you on turn 1 with a Dozo, Chi-Pao, or a Dragonite. I'm going to swap it out and then, at least do something interesting with it or try to innovate, try and push it to its maximum. Honestly, I'm glad that they don't do that too much because then we don't see as much of it in the metagame. And I think that they're very volatile, very unfun experience. It's not fun to play against. It's not fun to have to like see how bad your team is. Like you have to limit your creativity. I mean, not in DD, Mouse Hold and Annihilate. Thank God that's not in the meta right now, but that was another one. Rough. Like we had to deal with that. We had to deal with Murkrow and Dengo at the start. Like there's so many things in this. I'm thankful that Game Freak is innovating. They are pushing. They're giving us new strategies to try. I just wish they would stop doing drugs before they like develop this stuff. Lay off of the reefer.
Oh God.
Yeah, I actually, I think recently, maybe going back to like even 2022, I would always, when I'm trying to build, like, okay, I have to accept I can't cover for everything. What are the most oppressive strategies in a vacuum so that I can make sure I have like built-in text for those, and then I can figure out how I can just play well against some of the, maybe the strategies that are probably still more like better or have a higher ceiling, but I can play well against and beat off of that. So I'm always, like Spam's one of those that are like really oppressive. Dondozo, Urshifu, Tornadus is one that's like both really oppressive and like was the strongest archetype for a bit. And then I guess to contrast, I don't think you have to like have hard answers to balance. You just need to have like, mons you can bring and use against it, but you don't have to like hard tech for it. Like you don't have to use Gothitelle to stop the Palafin from switching out. You can kind of play a fair game against a big Palafin.
Wait, you can? You can do other things? That was my anti-Palafin deck. It was Gothitelle.
But yeah, I always do that when I'm trying to, figure out what what kind of teams I should be using. So there's definitely a matchup check versus what can win the tournament, and sometimes they're not always aligned. Sometimes they are. Sometimes, like Dondozo was really good into Portland's field, and Choppa made a great call with that team.
Also played phenomenally, for the record. I watched a
Yeah.
lot of his sets back, and very well played in a lot of those sets.
But yeah, and I think a lot of people, like, maybe they don't use that enough to their advantage, the whole matchup thing, because the whole reason why back in 2022 I brought Palkia Calyrex Ice Rider to every tournament was because I looked at all the teams in the meta and I was like, everything else is trying to click Max Airstream. They're trying to click Tailwind with the Tornadus. They're trying to do like the G-Max residuals. And I think if you're trying to win a tournament, you're going to be making sure you can beat those kind of teams, because that's like 90%, like, Calyrex, Shadow Riders plus Thundurus. You have Charizard, Groudon, you have Tornadus, Kyogre, all of these like Tailwind, Airstreams, Whimsicott, just a lot of different things. But the Palkia Calyrex Ice Rider, it plays a completely different game from all these other teams. And so I was like, I think people, not only are they going to have less practice into it because not as many people use this, they're not going to try to build text into like the team for it, because if I have to, if I'm looking at the 5 best teams and is like, how do I beat these, and I have to throw away one matchup to have the rest and everything else, you're probably going to pick the Trick Room matchup, because you can add things that kind of help against everything, because all the other stuff had similar stuff. Yeah, so I played the hard Trick Room team to pretty good success, and I think partially the reason for that was because I knew my matchups better than my opponents knew their matchup into me. And
honestly, that was my favorite team of 2022. Like, I got the pleasure to cast it a lot with either you playing or Alex Underhill, or like even Paul Chua's own version of the Palkia team. Like, it was just so fun, and that makes perfect sense. You're talking about like everyone was clicking Max Airstream and Priority Tailwind and all these things. So why don't I go
like the Alcremie
the opposite
version.
way?
Yeah.
Yes, that was so cool. So how do you see these archetypes? Is it a pro? I guess because it clearly worked out for you to develop the Palkia Calyrex team over a couple months. Is it a pro or a con to kind of stick with the same core, like how Chuppa has iterated within Dondozo multiple times, but still staying in the same core but changing some of the Pokemon, changing the moves? Like, is it better for any of our listeners here, maybe they're newer to the game, like sticking with Urshifu, Rillaboom, and Incineroar as the metas develop and as the formats change? And is it better for them that way? Or should you be trying to learn how to properly play 10 different archetypes? Like, what is the better way to improve as a player?
I don't want to like make a definitive answer on this, but I do want to pick your brain for a second, Burns.
Sure.
My approach with like the Tusk stuff, I'm not against using stuff that you're comfortable with. But we were always trying to figure something else out during that whole cycle. We had 3 tournaments in a row, and we all did well through all 3 of those tournaments. The same idea. The reason that we landed on our team 3 times, at least for the different iterations of it, is just like we didn't feel like something else was better. We tried, and we didn't feel like anything was better. Did you feel similarly with your Palkia Calyrex team, or are you always just trying to push that specific team?
I think in that case, I was just always trying to push Palkia Ice Rider, because I felt the other team comps were really rigid, and I was like, I think like I had the kind of like I had like specific intentions on what I wanted to do with, like, for the tournaments and have those matchups, and Ice Rider obviously aligned well with those. But obviously I'm, across the years I've had I don't really stick to one philosophy. I'm just trying to, what's best in the current situation. And I've had moments where I would keep using one team and still trying to figure out something else and be like, okay, well, I ran out of time. I'll just use the old team and, kind of regroup for the next tournament.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to say, I don't think it's a definitive, I don't want to tell anybody how to play the game. If they ask for my advice on this type of topic is you need to always pursue greatness, because the people that are the best in this game are giving 150%, right? In order to compete with a Wolf or a Ugarte or Alex Gomez or anybody that lives in Japan, you need to be dialed in, and you need to give the most that you can and not regret it. One of my favorite tournament results last year was not a win. It was going 6-0 to 6-3 at NAIC. And the reason it was so special to me as a failure is I was so happy afterwards. It was crushing to that's one of the worst feelings in Pokemon, is start off as hot as you possibly can and then fail, literally flounder as hard as you possibly can. But I was like, I literally did my best. I lost to Cheppa and Calvonix, two people that have cut worlds the year before. So that's fine. And it, game 3 against Calvonix, it was close. And I lost my win in against Richard Magellan, who outplayed me so hard. That happens. I was tilting, but I put so much work into the team. I felt like I played it fantastically, and my opponents just played, marginally a little bit better. Cheppa kind of wiped me, but the experience there was, I actually went into that tournament knowing that even if I had won NAIC, I wouldn't get a day 2 bye for Worlds. It was very funny. They had this spreadsheet showing who had the minimal possible chance to get a day 2 event, and it was me all the way at the very bottom because I was number 18 or whatever at 560 CP.
The 1% chance to get
it was less than that. It was 0.12 or something. And it was very funny, all the simulations. There was I think Gavin was talking about the Doctor Strange thing. There's only one where Carris wins NAIC, everybody else flops, and he makes day 2. Would have been so awesome. I love doing things just for the bit. So I was so hyped for NAIC, and I worked with Toller and Yotam, and we used this idea that was Toller's kind of child that they were into Earthworm at the time, and I was like, man, this team is really hard to play, but it's cool. I'd love to try a new style. Definitely not my style. It was kind of modeled off of Underhill's team from Milwaukee, and we had tried that version out first. We liked a little bit more something closer to Desu's, and then we used Iron Hands instead of I think Gyarados on their team. And we really, really prepped, and we knew going to this tournament, man, this team is difficult to use. It is one of the hardest teams I've ever tried using in my entire career, to this day. And that was the fun of it. We were the exercise that we made out of this team was, we are going to use this as kind of weightlifting for Worlds, because we have no idea how to play this new format. We have no idea how hard it's going to be, and people are going to bring their best for Worlds. So let's try and use this experience to level up. And we committed to that, and then they announced Regulation D, and we were like, you know what, screw it, we're not even going to try for Worlds. And we all built really weird teams. I changed my team 2 weeks before the event. But a little bit tangential. The point I was trying to make there is I have been trying to make myself the best version of builder, player, have the best mentality always. And that's kind of something that I think is very inspired, not just by my own endeavors, but by Wolf. How can you not watch him go to these tournaments, completely dominate, be the face of the game, and be kind and hardworking and encourage people, and not be inspired to give just as much, if not more, effort? And I think it's a little bit different in my case. I'm very close to him. It's crazy to have somebody like that as a mentor and a role model. But yes, in order to pursue greatness in this game, you have to build. You have to get better at it. You have to work with people, collaborate, be diverse, be fluid, be flexible, be adaptable, especially with the rotating formats changing. I think now more than ever, you need to be able to roll with the punches and play on the fly. I changed my size spam team 4 days before the tournament. Toller ended up getting top 8. He would not have if we had ran the original version. I think he's a little bit more flexible of a player than I am, and that's kind of why he was able to push deeper into the tournament than I did. And yeah, using Dondozo, like there's merit to that. Using Psyspam, there's merit to that. You learn different styles, but push yourself. Try other things. There are better things. You will find stuff. I mean, Dondozo and Psyspam have not won a tournament since Karichurba. And I pushed a different type of Psyspam and wanted to like try and use it. As I've said, the joke was, right, on that tweet, I bet my firstborn child that Fari, Blursa, or Psyspam will not win the tournament unless an elite player runs them. And the joke wasn't that I consider myself an elite player. It was really that Toller I thought was an elite player and has the history to back it up. And he got really close to winning with Psyspam.
He got pretty close, yeah.
And Nick Donnelly also got pretty close to winning with Fari Blursa, but I was right. It did not win. And I mean, these people are not going to get that far into these tournaments, and they're not going to, develop as players if you only pigeonhole yourself or become a one-trick pony in Pokemon. You can have a style, but you don't need to say, like, this is my favorite thing to play. I'm only going to play this.
Dude, Carris was literally one game away from having to name his firstborn child Blood Moon Ursaluna. That's how close it was.
Yeah, I know. I definitely agree with all of that. I do want to add, like, you should be, striving to improve at all aspects. But you definitely want to find what you're best at and really hone that really well. Because I think, a lot of top players, I think, they have their thing that they're known for really well. Like, I think, for years, it was like Wolf was one of the, great defensive minds in VGC. And then you also have, the other players that are really good at making reads, or someone that,
Noak
always brings
is
the
a good
right
example
team
of that.
to a tournament. So I think, if you can find something that you can become elite at, you can definitely like try to focus on that. Don't try to like force yourself to do it, but just you definitely always want to find like what you're best at doing. And that was kind of my focus for Worlds last year too, just because I didn't really have a good season at all by my personal standards in 2023. So I really felt like I had to try to go back to my roots and figure out what I'm best at doing. And I did. I made day 2, so I felt like it was a success. But yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents.
How many times have you made day 2 Worlds? Like 4, 5?
That was my 4th. That was my
You're
3rd
so
time
crazy.
through day 1.
No
You are
big deal.
literally the greatest day 1 player in Worlds of all time, right? I think you have the most.
3,
or Alvin?
No, I think it might be David Kutesh.
Oh, Kutesh is cracked too, so. All right, props to Kutesh as well. I think that's one of the hardest things. That's one of my things I admire most about your career is how many times you've made it through day 1 World.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Still looking for that World's cut, but I think,
I got faith.
If I can get through day 1, that's a start, especially next year, since everyone has to start in day 1.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's only going to be that 1 round difference. But I hope our listeners enjoyed our conversations here, and because we do have we see it all the time in our OHKO Discord, like, hey, I'm attending my first PC, or I'm attending my first regional, or like, so we have a lot of early on VG players that it's good to kind of have your 2 perspectives as veterans and how to improve the game. So this whole conversation's all been for them, but now this is for me, because Sierra's not here to stop me. So I'm going to be a little selfish, because obviously my Pokemon commentary career is also intertwined with the both of you two here. We got to just quickly we can't have a conversation. I can't have Justin Burns on the podcast and not talk about the Toxicroak moment. It's not possible. Justin Carris, I was there in the moment. You've waited so long to finally get that regional title in Charlotte, and I was the first person hosting in the lounge to be there. So let's start with Toxicroak. This is probably, to this day, the craziest match I have ever cast in my life. I think the only thing that probably comes close was Salt Lake City top 4 between Aaron Trailer and Joe Ugarte, where Aaron had to get the double protect and dodge a player off and hidden origin pulse and all that nonsense. Dynamax Besides that, it's the Toxicroak versus the world, Burns. Like, You were the player. I was the caster. Me and Brendan. If you watch the video, you cannot understand a single word either of us are saying because we're so excited. How did it feel to win the first regional with Toxicroak in over a decade in that moment in such a ridiculous way?
Oh, it was crazy, especially since, the team kind of like came together kind of last second. I think it was me and Justin Krubaugh, another one of the great Justins.
Another Justin
game, that we worked together on the team, and we both top cut. I went 7-0, and he went 6-1, and then we were matched up round 8, and I scooped him in because I was already in cut. And then, that like my first regional win in 2017. I won 5. I lost the 2 players that cut, and so I got into cut at 6-2, and I just had a good Sunday and played well in my top 8, top 4 in finals. So that was nice. But in Philadelphia at the Toxicroak Regional, I felt like my team was significantly better than everyone else's I played, and that was it was nice to get to have a dominant run like that. And I do actually have one interesting thing that I've never shared outside of my my personal friends, but the Toxicroak, I later found out that it accidentally had a 0 IV in attack.
Oh, really?
And it mattered in finals in what you wouldn't expect. I don't know if you remember, but the end game was against a Wiki Berry Kyogre. And
right, with the low kick.
I had to poison jab it first to avoid proccing the berry and then finish it with low kick. And if I had been the max IV attack, the poison jab would have put it into berry range.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up winning that game because of the min attack.
That's crazy. Talk about being
the Toxicroak lore expands even more. That is so awesome to hear.
That's a fire moment.
Yeah,
you should have saved that for like a YouTube video or something. You guys do not know how to capitalize.
Right, it's on YouTube.
Need to capitalize.
Right,
we need like animations and stuff like this.
I will literally never forget where I was when Toxicroak won a regional. But let's switch to Justin Carris, Charlotte last year. Now, Justin, I've known you for a very long time, going back to like 2015, the old Brooklyn days, the old Liberty Garden days, and you were always one of my favorite people. Like back then, I was a nobody. I wasn't casting. I was at the low tables with like, my silly like Mega Charizard X teams that I was bringing to PCs and stuff. And you were always just super nice. It didn't matter what my record was. You'd always say hi. You'd always talk, have conversations whenever we played each other. You always whoop my butt, but you'd always be nice after the set too. So I've always been a fan of yours. Then we did Liberty Garden commentary together. You're always super nice in that. So I've always, rooted for you, even from afar, when you were, top cut worlds and top cut any regionals. I'm always, fist pump for my guy, Carris. And then Charlotte happens last year. And it kind of felt like the same thing that Burns is saying, like with his Toxicroak team, he felt like he was the best player with the best team in Philadelphia. Your Great Test team in Regulation B, like Charlotte kind of felt like you were the best player with the best team in that event too.
Yeah. A couple things. I think over the Regulation B format, like we had like our building group had a chip on our shoulders. Like not many people were stealing our stuff, which normally is a good thing, right? But it felt like almost like, do you guys not respect how good this is? Like, look at how consistent we've been. Look at how strong it is. And people just weren't stealing it. So if one time in my life I've ever felt like, hey, people are not imitating and insulted me. So we had a chip on our shoulders of like, all right, one of us is winning one of these regionals. Like, this is definitely the best team. And I still to this day think that was the best team across all of Regulation B. I think we made an excellent case for that just by results, sheer championship point numbers, consistency over every tournament. It influenced a lot of the meta because people realized that Tusk was much more than just like a Sash Pokemon. Wolf ended up using Jugulus and Life Orb Tusk. I don't know that. I mean, maybe he would have used that anyway, but like I feel like that had a little bit of influence. And then Marcus won Bokum with it. There was also like the Suika version with like the Baxcalibur, and I think that was a Sash Tusk or like an AV Bax. But it had like Sunny Day for a photosynthesis boost, like Sunny Day Talonflame. I felt like the team that we had come up with was incredibly strong, and we knew all of our matchups. We always joked that there was only one bad matchup that the team had whatsoever. Either it went neutral or positive into everything, and that one bad matchup was Sand, which is ironic because it was a T-Tar team. But every time we played a Sand player, they didn't know why it was so good into us. The problem is if they lead Lycanroc and Tyranitar, I am like completely exposing how like the one weakness this team had. If they led Lycanroc, Tyranitar, they could just flinch us. Like they outspeed us even after Tailwind, because Lycanroc is just like pretty much faster than almost anything on the team. And like we had very specific game plans, but it just felt like, especially once some of them started running Accelerock, like they could just wipe us. We actually had our Talonflame EV to live Accelerock. Which is funny, but it like we needed it to, otherwise we would have no matchup into Sand. And every single regional, one of our like we would all play a Sand team. We all won the Sand matchup, but mostly because they didn't know to lead that and do that one thing. And Charlotte, like I don't exactly feel like I was the best player at that tournament. I actually think that was one of the luckiest runs I've ever had against Dylan Salvanera in day one. I got extremely lucky. I got like 12 flinches in a row with Rock Slide, to the point where it was actually hurting me that I kept flinching him, because I was like, okay, the first one, great, I'm in a good spot. But then like they whisked my Tyranitar and I kept flinching them with a bad Tyranitar on the field. Like I was like, all right, I even forgot that I had Tailwind up and Tailwinded on a turn, because I was just like, honestly, I felt bad for him because he was just like, you could see it in his face. He's like, oh no, I'm getting flinched. And I was like, bro, this is kind of hurting me now. And then I clicked Tailwind and I already had 2 turns of Tailwind left. So I'll never forget that. I played against Zanzibar, Jeremy Parsons, who had, or Parson, I think it's Parson or Parsons. I got like I missed the Thunder Wave, and then I missed the Will-O-Wisp, but then I froze their Dondozo, and I won because of that. And then the second game, I think I crit them with Freeze Dry through Dondozo boosts, and like so I didn't even need to go to a game 3, so I got lucky there. I think I got lucky against Nate Ortiz, who I like dodged like a 97% accurate Sleep Powder. I don't know that it would have changed the course of that game, but in that set there was, if you play it back, you'll remember that there was a 3% chance for me to dodge, and I dodged. I think they got max sleep turns to bring into a game 3 anyway, so screw you, I don't care anyway. That one specifically I don't care about because I'm pretty sure I game planned it like right before, and they had Orthworm, Terra Ghost Orthworm, which is like the most Tusk counter you can possibly have. So again, thank you. I like Nate. I'm not trying to disrespect or anything. I just thought it was very funny. But yes, when I went into cut, and then I went into cut and I crit, what's it called? Thornburg's Dondozo 2. I played one of the best games I've ever played in my life in game 2. Like literally outplayed him like 6 turns in a row, like consecutively. So I don't care that that's how I won in game 1, but like I keep track of this stuff. Like I remember, like, man, it had to be this regional that everything went my way. And then finally we got to the final set against Joe, and that was a mess. He went for like 6 hydro pumps. I think he hit 4 of them, or it was like 5 and he hit 3 of them. It looked like he got like an extremely crucial dodge on game 3. Man, I am making this really long-winded. I am sorry. This is just, it felt like I was getting extremely lucky, but then I watched the VODs back and he dodged 2 of my Will-O-Wisps that would have won me game 1. And I'm like, this is just the game we play. And also the first time I had ever played Joe, he hacks the ever-living crap out of me. So he deserves it. And then he won like a regional after making finals again and again. So I was like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah. So Joe may have been the best player at that tournament, but my team was better. And I outlucked him, which is also a skill. So it was a great moment.
Even at Philly, I had to dodge like 2 Thunders to win in finals. So
yeah,
I think every regional run, you've got to have a little luck to go far, or like even not getting unlucky is also kind of lucky. So like,
Yeah, luck neutral is very important. Like if you like keeping track of like when things are going your way, just to kind of like see like it helps you keep track of like if your plays are smart, if you played around like bad luck situations, etc. If you really closed out all of your end games, and I keep track of stuff like that. But you also have to. It also helps you too to remember like when you're getting lucky. Something Wolf told me I think is hilarious. He's like, I find it funny. Like I get happy when I get lucky. Like he's like, you have to like hype yourself up. You're like, yes, I deserve this. And I'm like, okay, let's try this mentality instead. And then I won a regional the day after he told me this. So maybe that's part of it. A little bit of madness, maybe a little bit evil genius. But there's a lot of tournaments where you go like 6-3 because 2 sets you got completely robbed. Or you get hacks out of top cut or hacks out of your winning in. So things break our way. Sometimes they don't. That's part of the beauty of it. Same thing happens in sports. Steph Curry gets foul calls, LeBron James. The refs. I mean, the NFL looks almost scripted after what happened to Lamar Jackson. So
sometimes the football bounces off the opponent's visor and into your hand.
Sometimes the Lions can,
every time Brock Purdy throws the ball.
Like sometimes the Lions can go up 3 scores and they just choose to go for it on 4th down for no reason and turn the ball over and let Brock Purdy bring the game back. Anything. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into the sports here on Pokemon podcast, but I've kept you guys way longer than I originally set out. I apologize. I've just been enjoying the conversation so much. I love having you guys on that. Just kind of just listening back and forth. So we have one last thing here, and that's the question of the week. I'm not going to give my answer because I'm going to wait till I have that with the segment with Sierra. That's a tease to make sure people keep listening till the end of the show. But we're going to need your answers to the question of the week here. And let me get our Discord friend that asked the question originally. We want to give proper credit here. It's from I think it's Geb. Yeah. Geb asked, what's one Pokemon that is your, quote, brainworm Pokemon? Where regardless of the format, if the Pokemon is available, it will always find its way into the team builder at least once during the process. So we'll start with Burns. What's that one Pokemon that no matter what, you always keep trying to put it back into the builder?
Oh, this might come as a surprise, but if you go talk to any of my, close friends that I build with, they'll always say, even if it's for 5 seconds, Burns is always going to have his Frostmoth phase. So there's this. I'm going to look at it and be like, Ice Scales is really cool right now, or like I can make it like, make it resist. I think like when it first came out in Sword and Shield, I was like, yeah, this is going to be an awesome Quiver Dance Pokemon. You can just run like max defense on it and it's just unkillable. Didn't work out. Then, each series moves along. It's like, oh, hey, Frostmoth got a new partner.
Then they buffed Snow.
GS Cup comes out. I was like, this guy walls Kyogre. You can wide guard the Shadow Rider. And then, that doesn't work out. And then I think it was in the first regional decks for Scarlet and Violet. And I was like, yeah, Frostmoth.
It's like the Jimmy Neutron meme where it's like, no, Burns, this is the 7th time you tried to show Frostmoth.
You could have given me 100 guesses and told me that it was a bug type, and I probably wouldn't have gotten Frostmoth. That's funny, man.
Oh, what about you, Carris?
For me, I alluded to it earlier. You may end up cutting that out, but for me, it's definitely Slowking, or Slowbro. They're kind of like a dynamic duo for me. Not the regional forms. I think it's Galarian, whatever. I don't even know what their abilities or stats are. Don't care about them. Hideous, disgusting creatures. Sorry if that's somebody's favorite Pokemon. You have terrible taste. But Slowbro and Slowking, like the OGs, I think I'm accidentally like a Psychic type gym leader. I love Mega Gardevoir. I've just recently used Iron Crown. I kind of like Indeedee. Like, there's so many Psychic types. Gothitelle, yeah. There's
PG team.
Lake PG, yeah. Tapu Lele. Oh my god, you remember? This is why I like this guy. He knows his stuff. Metagross, I used at one point. Like, there's so many different Pokemon that like were Psychic types. Bronzong, and I also like I don't know what it is, but like Sabrina is just like one of my favorite gym leader like designs. So I'm just a sucker for psychic types. I used Slow King in 2017 at NAIC. I built a team with Alex Gomez, and we were like so into the idea of using Slow King. It felt like a really good idea at the meta. I almost brought it to Worlds last year. Not Slow King, but Slowbro. I thought Slowbro was actually pretty good. It's like an iron defense body press trick room. It's not really good, spoiler alert, and I struggled using it. Now would be the worst time to even try it, but yeah, right before Worlds last year, I tried it. I think I also used it in 2022. I didn't play enough of that format, really. Like, I tried to get my Worlds invite, but like I just didn't use that Slowbro Evoltol team.
Yeah, the Slowbro was a good Ice Rider answer.
I was gonna say, I remember Slowbro winning on stream in 2022. I think it was NAIC.
Maybe
it might have been Zhejiang.
We put Haze on Tapu Fini just for like Slowbro and Bronzong. So
yeah, I think it also won like an Italian event. I don't know if it was Bilbao or something, but it won like right before Milwaukee because that's when that team picked up with like Alecki, Slowbro, Venusaur. So yeah, Slowbro is like, I don't know, man. It's dopey. It's adorable, and it's a psychic type, so it's always gonna find its way.
I'm a big Slowbro fan. I have brought it to Worlds, actually.
Was that in 2015?
It was 2016.
My goodness!
It was my first day 2. Well, second Worlds.
Me too.
We were. I think we were in the same flight because I'm pretty sure round 8 we sat next to each other for the winning in.
Who did you end up playing against in round 8?
I don't remember. It was some girl from Germany.
But I played Nikolai.
Oh wow!
That was my winning in, dude. Game 3, I'll never forget.
Oh my goodness,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I had some silly like Slowbro Radon team where I would like have the Heal Pulse Slowbro with Eruption, and
you would have bodied me. You would have. Radon was my worst matchup. I was trying to dodge it. I dodged it the entire tournament.
Yeah, it was a fun team. I started out 3-1 and then kind of lost out after that, but you know, it had me believing for a second.
Next time you put Slowbro in the builder, please hit me up, bro.
Hit him up. You got such a good mind. You're slow. Yeah, put Slowbro and Frostmoth on the same team. Maybe we're cooking too far. Not far enough.
First half, not gonna lie.
Oh man.
All right. Well, thank you to both Justins in this Justin versus Justin matchup, and we have to kind of decide a winner here. But I think the winner is all the listeners, the OHKO community that got to hear such a great conversation with two of the best players, two of my favorite people in the community. So it's a tie. Everybody wins here. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll start with Burns. Do you have any shout outs, or where can people find you? You know, anything else? And then Karis give you shout outs as well after.
Yeah, so I guess, shout outs to, all my friends at Tub. They're all, they're pretty awesome. Shout outs to, my family and, because they're so supportive of me. You can find me at Just Mr. Burns on Twitter, Spurific on Discord. Because if you want to DM me with questions, it's probably better to reach out on Discord. Because I never see my Twitter DMs for some reason.
But you saw him today, which that's all that matters. I
didn't see him today, but I yeah.
Well, when important people DM you have to respond.
Oh, come on.
Dude, I saw Joe Brown in my DMs, and I didn't look at Twitter pretty much for 8 hours or something. It was after work, and I was like, instant response.
I was terrified. I thought I missed it because when I finished work, I just was like, I'm gonna close my eyes for 10 minutes, and then I ended up taking a nap for an hour and a half, and I woke up to these DMs. It was like, you want to be on the OHKO? I was like, oh no, this was an hour and a half ago. I missed out.
No, we got you both. That's all right. And then, Karis, what about your shout-outs?
Well, I'm glad that you ended up waking up. It was a pleasure talking with you and going through some of the VGC history and getting our perspectives now. If you enjoyed anything that I had to say, or you think I'm actually just a giant knob, go check out my YouTube channel. I just started it with Turn Down for Walt. He's helping me kind of put that stuff together, and we're trying to breathe some more life into VGC history, do tournament recaps. It's literally just my tag, Azazel. And then major shout outs, obviously, to the people that support me in all those endeavors and in my Pokemon stuff. Church of Tusk, obviously, that's the OG gang. All my friends, family, etc. And big shout outs to you, Joe. I literally rearranged my entire schedule. You're like, "Are you busy tonight? You want to come hang out?" And I was like, "Not for you, Joe. I'm free tonight."
You're the best, dude.
You're worth it, man. And I'm glad I got to have this experience. It was really fun to talk. Maybe I talked a little bit too much. Maybe I said some things I shouldn't have said. But yeah, I had a great time. Thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.
No, that's what we love about you, Justin. And same with Burns too. You guys have such good insight, such great members of our community that I'm always pulling for you. Just so you know, in the back, like I'm refreshing the Arcanine every round. I'm control effing Justin, and I gotta get through a lot of names. So maybe there's a lot of good Justins out there. Maybe I should control F for Burns and for Carris in the future. But just know I'm
this with like 10 Justins.
Yeah, I'm quietly rooting for you in the background.
Shout outs to all the Justins out there. Keep being awesome.
Keep it up. Yeah, I think you guys have to take a photo, like just a 10 Justin photo at NAIC or something like that. That photo will go viral.
You need a panoramic.
Yeah.
Like
all
50.
right, so thank you, Justin Carris and Justin Burns, for being my co-host this week on OHKO. But the show is not over because breaking news, I've heard that Sierra actually is around her computer right now, ready with internet working, which is sometimes a little iffy. So thank you to both our Justins here. But let's finally toss back over to one Sierra Dawn.
Hello, everyone. I am back. Thank you so much to the two Justins, Justin Carris, Justin Burns, for filling in. I don't know if Joe Brown explained, I missed my train back from Toronto and had to stay in Toronto an extra day. So, finally just getting home, hopping on here. But, hey, I heard you guys had fun.
We did. We had a great time, honestly. I'm a huge fan of Justin Burns, huge fan of Justin Carris, have been for a long time. So it was great to get two great Justins, which is there's a lot of in the community if you think about it. There's actually a lot of really strong VGC players named Justin, and had a lot of fun conversations. We learned, we laughed, we loved. It was a great time.
I'm happy for y'all, genuinely, and I'm low-key excited because, of course, I don't want to go back and listen to the podcast when I was sitting here recording the podcast with you, right? It's like, oh, I already know what happens. I don't want to listen to my own voice, but now I get to go back and listen to the podcast. So that's actually kind of cool. So
just like everybody else, you're hearing it for the first time. Yeah.
I'm excited. I heard that Carris was on the right side of Legend Arceus and the Farigiraf debate. So, we had some my opinion representation here, but yeah, it's been a long week. I literally leave for Knoxville in like 2 days again, but I'm just getting back from Liverpool. I have to tell you, I had an amazing time at Liverpool. I am never doing the 3 regional weekend in a row that I willingly signed myself up for again. Because I come off of Charlotte, and then we had like a 22-hour travel day to get to Liverpool. And then jet-lagged the whole 9 yards, and then coming home to then go right out to Knoxville. It's like...
You are an absolute trooper for being able to do 3 regionals in 3 weeks. That is just like, that's hardcore. I mean, obviously some of the players do it, right? And obviously you've seen some players that just travel for everything because they love the competition so much. But like 3 events in 3 weeks, that's brutal. And in 3 different countries with you, right? So.
Well, technically, like, Knoxville, Charlotte's the same country, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying your travel encompasses 3 different countries.
Yeah, it was a lot. And Ireland, because we had a layover there.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was everywhere. I was everywhere. But I have to say, Liverpool Regionals, as tired as I was the entire weekend, I was constantly exhausted. That, I think, might be, like, my favorite regionals that I've gone to. It was actually so cool. So, I think like the best way to describe it, you know how there's kind of a different vibe, a different level of an internationals in comparison to a regionals? Just the amount of people that are showing up, the activities that are going on, just kind of the vibe and the atmosphere. Liverpool kind of felt a little bit more like an IC than any of the NA regionals do. It was, to explain how the hall worked, instead of having tables right when you walk in, they were like spread out both to the sides. So the whole entry hall was a bunch of stands, a bunch of different merch stands you could go to, and then the stage on the other end. As well, you could sign up for all your side events there, right? And then the stage, there was a lot more people watching, and a lot of people like kind of invested in the game. And since all the shops were also in the center area, everyone was kind of hanging around and chatting there, which was kind of a cool vibe. They had so many side events, and people were like excited to play side events. We did this box draft where it's like a draft for Pokemon, which then they make rentals and you play your teams, and just the whole vibe going on. It was so much fun. It was so cool.
That's a pretty interesting. So, like, I imagine you're just in like box 27, and there's different Pokemon in there, right? And you're is that how it works?
It was even better than that. So I know that you're very familiar with the TCG Cube. For anyone else who doesn't know, they're cubes, like these box cubes that TCG players make that have different cards in them. And you get a stack of cards, and you pick one, and you pass the stack of cards around to build your deck. So they kind of had similar to that, but Pokemon. So then they had cards printed off that had the Pokemon, the ability, the item, and the moveset on them. And you got a stack of them, and you picked your one Pokemon, you passed it along. As you got the next stack, picked out your next Pokemon until you had your team of 6. And they made the rental. Wow. And they had a couple of different themes. So the one we did was Little Cup, right? So it was actually so cool. I'm actually making a box draft now that I'm hoping to have done for Orlando. Fingers crossed. There's no way I can get it done for Knoxville in time. But yeah, it was so much fun, honestly.
No, that's actually a really cool concept. I love that the side event metagame is is stepping up. I think that's great. But I think it's a pretty interesting comment where you said like Liverpool felt more like at an IC level than the North American regionals, and like maybe inherently it's because there's so many people from different countries, maybe hearing more different languages, and the Italian players are congregating, and the Portuguese players and the Spanish players. So that might be like a benefit that European events have, is that they inherently have more international flair to them because you have so many international countries so close to each other coming to Liverpool.
It's like, it felt like, on Championship Sunday sometimes, where for regionals, where if you're not necessarily playing, you kind of just go into the city, or people are kind of milling around, but it's more in like well, I have nothing else to do sort of way. It kind of felt like everyone wanted to be there. That was kind of the vibe that I got from it. And the venue, they still kind of packed things up to an extent, but it wasn't like really obvious in your face. It was kind of like shutting down the outside corners. They had side events open till a pretty decently late time. They had all the shops open for a pretty late time. And it just, I don't know, people seemed to want to be there, even on day 2 if they didn't make day 2. And it kind of felt a bit more Pokemon community spirit. It's so weird to try and to describe how this was such a different feeling than a regional, but like one of the NA regionals. But it just, I don't know. It was really strange. It was really strange, but it was a lot of fun. I'm still trying to find a better way to explain it. I feel like the whole like everyone wanted to be there is like the biggest like difference,
I feel I'm happy for you. Obviously, being able to go to Europe and like it's not like you were working, right? So you went, you planned the trip and you played and you had like I guess it's like a different experience than when you are contracted to go somewhere, right? Like, this is my job. I got to deal with this, blah. Like, so like, did it feel? I know obviously it was tough with travel and stuff. It took forever to get there. You had to stop in Ireland, but like, did it feel like a vacation compared to the North American events that feel more like a work event, if that makes sense.
I don't know. I don't look too much at like the regional weekends where we work like too much of a work event, because it's like I love the work so much.
Right.
If that makes sense. It was so like it didn't like feel different in that vibe. It just very much so it was very lively for a very long time, as opposed to just being like Debbie Downer, we're packing up on Sunday, let's go. So I will say, like, did get to go and hang out with friends, kind of wander around and stuff. The area was pretty cool. What was kind of annoying was convention center itself, because it was like concrete walls. You couldn't get any phone service in there. And then the Wi-Fi starting off the tournament wasn't working for like the first couple of rounds. So everyone was out in the hallways trying to scramble to find anybody with a working cell phone connection, which was absolutely hilarious and just so chaotic, right? But other than that, the area where it was held was really cool. It was right by kind of like, I wouldn't say pier is the right word, but like there was like water and these boats and all these like different restaurants and stuff that you could wander around in, a bunch of hotels there. So it was like a really, really cool area to be able to go and hang out with people afterwards, right?
Yeah, that sounds... Did you hang out? I know obviously you have your own different friend group and everything, but did you happen to run into any of our European casters or grab food or hang out with them at the venue? Because, you know, we got casters on both sides of the pond now. We got to get to know them better.
So unfortunately not. It's you know, the same at NA events, where it's like if you're not working the event, that you're maybe less likely to hang out with the casters, because the casters are kind of on their own time. So it was similar to that. Me and Rose did head back and like go backstage and go say hi to everybody and hung out for a little bit with them there. Got to say hi to all the VGC peeps, even got to say hi to the TCG peeps, because we got to work with them in LASE, right? And got to say hello to everyone. I got to see my wife Lou, of course, which is always, you know, always good, but unfortunately didn't get to hang out with people outside. It wasn't for a lack of effort too. I know I like tried to talk and hang out with some people, but they're on caster time, right? So they got off at different hours. They got to be up, or like it's a little different, right? So next time.
Yeah. I'll always give you credit. You do try to get people together to have groups and karaoke and other fun things. So you're always giving it an effort to try to have people hang out. And sometimes if casters are too busy, or you know, whatever it is what it is. Or you know, if you want me to come to a karaoke place at 1:30 in the morning on a Saturday in Portland, and I've already snuggled in bed, you know, I just can't make it. Just can't make it.
Which, you know, understandable, because like I didn't work Portland. You were. So, you know, caster time versus not caster time. The karaoke place was lit, by the way.
I'm so jealous.
You know, tis what tis, but I'll have to get you at karaoke another time.
Let's get into the gaming. Let's get into the Pokemon here. This is a Pokemon podcast, Sierra.
Oh no!
So I have no idea. I know you were cooking. I saw some of the team builders saw some of the teams you were considering. So I know the stove was on. I don't know what your final concoction was, but where'd we end up? What team did you play in Liverpool?
Stove was on, but like I don't know how to cook, and I just borrowed a box of KD from somebody else. Like, ugh. Dude, I am so lost with what I want to do in this regulation. It just, nothing is clicking with me. I feel like a really important part of like the game and being able to have some sort of success is kind of clicking with the team. You can be using a perfect team, but if you're just not necessarily vibing with it, you're maybe not going to see the lines. You're maybe just going to be missing stuff. And I have not been able to find a team that clicks. Historically, I do like sort of balancey type of things. Right now, the thought of playing like Incineroar, Rillaboom, all of that stuff, like the thought of playing balance right now makes me want to vomit. I don't like these balance mirrors that we have going on in Reg App. It's just terrible. So I had been using Jump Left Sun before, not the same version as Pengy's. It was funny because we both started using Sun around the same time. But I then decided I wanted to go to a different version of Sun. That was like, wow, Torkoal and Jump Left are just trash. Like, these are like toddlers rolling up to like, I don't know, like a proper hockey game and just getting like checked right onto the ice. Like, they can't keep up, right? So I was like, I need them off my team, but I need something that is Tailwind and Sun. Oh, what does both of those things? Torn. So I took both the Jumpluff and the Torkoal off, and I put Torn on, and then put on a couple of different attackers. I put a Dark Urshifu on there. I put a Hearthflame Ogrepon. And then I modified a little bit, and I put a Indeedee and an Iron Crown on the team. So I had my fast Tailwind Sun team, and then I had a Psy-Spam version of it. Come to realize, I messaged the team to Semper, and I was like, yo, Semper, what do you think? And then he's like, oh, this is cool. It's like, it's almost Tolar's 6. You just have Sun and like a different 6th mon. And then I was like, oh my god, I just made a worse version of Tolar's team. Cool. So I looked over the team, and then I've been practicing, I've been playing, and I was debating, and I talked to Otam a bunch about it, like the differences between the teams, etc. And then talking to the casters as well, and they're like, oh, like, your team is just a lower skill ceiling. Tolar's is a higher skill ceiling. And then I was just like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. I have Tolar's, like, wish version of this team, right? Like, it's not good. What am I gonna do? I wasn't vibing with it either. I'm losing games. I don't know what to do. So we get to, like, midnight before the tournament, and I swap over to Tolar's version. I'm just like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. So I swapped over. So now I'm playing a team that I'm not familiar with, because now I have Rain instead of Sun, and now I have different Pokemon on it, and I proceed to instantly just go 0-3 at the tournament. Like, it was actually just pretty yikes in that regard. So kind of disappointed, but at the same time, I think it was pretty eye-opening. First off, you cannot be a not top player and be picking a team at midnight, rolling up, and expect it to go well. I knew better.
Breach.
Yeah. Second, like, it doesn't matter if the one team had a higher skill ceiling than the other. If I'm on the floor, right? Like, it doesn't matter the ceiling of the team if I'm never gonna touch that ceiling, right? So why am I then worried about the team with the higher skill ceiling? I can't achieve it, right?
Sierra's like, why give me keys to an apartment on the 17th floor when I can't even figure out how to get into the 3rd floor?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it, right? Like, that's all cool and dandy if one team's better than the other, but if I'm not better, it doesn't matter.
I don't think you should kick yourself too hard for that, because Tolar's version might have had certain intricacies that, you know, he and Justin, like Justin talked about that team on the pod today, like they might have had certain lines or certain matchups with knowledge that you wouldn't have had if you just ran, you know, the same thing the same ways. You don't have that same matchup knowledge, so it might not have worked out in either version, you know? It just is what it is sometimes.
It's just one of those, like, I was unfamiliar with it, and when I was playing with the team, I've also never played Psy-Spam, really. Most I played Psy-Spam was when I originally put it on the Sun version and was testing it out, and I still didn't know how to use it. I'm just sitting there like, I don't know what buttons to click. So I got a little bit better with the team as the day went on and stuff. Yotam was nice enough to help me with some matchups. Like, I have to say, because I was a little shy to message anyone else that had been using the team. So Yotam talked to me a lot about stuff, and I don't know, I just bungled it, honestly. And then I ended up finishing 5-4 at the end. So officially better than you. That's all that technically matters. But
Oh, I thought when you said you started 0-3, I just thought that meant you dropped. I'm happy you played through the whole day. I didn't know that.
It was literally, I wanted to try and go 6-3 to try and get points. It didn't work. You can technically go 5-4 and get points. Doesn't happen if you go 0-3 to start, but there is a point at which case it was just, you know, like, I just need to play more. Obviously, in comparison to others, because, and like, you understand this too, we work the events. We don't necessarily get to we don't necessarily get to play in person at these events too often. And playing in person is definitely a different atmosphere than online. So it was like, you know what? I did pay a decent chunk of change for this trip. I'm going to just sit through, I'm going to play the matches. And if we go 5-4 and something wacky happens that I get points, cool. If I at least go 5-4 and I've beaten Joe Brown, and I'm officially the better host, that's also cool. You know, whatever I need to tell myself.
Because I'm not playing any other regionals, so I can't catch up to you.
Yeah. So now it's never arbitrary, like you saying like, oh, well, I took the 5 losses. I never know if it would have been 6. Now we know. I am just, but yeah.
Well, I think you could have a real good glass half full perspective, right? Like, yeah, it sucks that you started 0-3, but then I went 5-1 in the last 6 games, the last 6 sets. That's
no, because like trying to find a way to phrase this without being disrespectful, but essentially, if people of all different skill levels come out to the events, and once you start hitting the 0-3, you're probably playing against people who are coming out to maybe their first event, or who don't necessarily play the game, or just going because it's in their city. And this person was really nice, no disrespect to them, but I ended up doing a follow me on my Indeedee, and they sucker punched, and they mentioned they thought sucker punch was a +2 and follow me was a +1, so they'd get to go first. So if I'm playing situations like that to get myself to a 5-4 record, I don't necessarily feel like, oh, in my last 6 games, I went 5-1, because I don't think it's necessarily at the same level. Like it doesn't, when people hear the 5-1, they're like, oh, well, this is really skilled players, like, you're doing this. And it's like, I don't feel accomplished. Like, at that point, like, the games were for fun. People didn't really have anything on the line. They were just kind of vibing. It was some newer players who didn't understand certain things or starting to learn them. But that's where it's like the 5-1 doesn't feel like, oh my god, you went 5-1 in your last 6 games. It's like,
I'm not saying to hold a parade. I'm just trying to put a positive spin on the situation. My bad.
No, it's like, you managed to score a goal in hockey. Congratulations. And it's like, yeah, there's a baby in skate sitting in the net. So right over the head, like, oh, of course you got it, right? So it doesn't mean much.
Imagine if the baby just makes like the sickest save, like reactions. I'll sign that kid up.
No, I'd have to say, like, it's funny because like when you originally go 0-3, or like you're 0-3 or 1-3 or 2-3, like people are actually, I don't think I went 2-3. I would think I went to 2-4, but pretty quick. But whatever, we climbed back from there. Mm-hmm. I have to say, people are really nice at those tables. I think, like, as soon as I hit that 0-3 and we're sitting there, everyone's like, yo, bottom table gamers! Like,
it's the place to be, honestly. It's so much more fun than all the sweats at the top tables that, like, they won't even talk. They won't even look in your direction. Like, oh, I gotta read this team sheet in 6 different languages to make sure I know every single aspect of it. And it's like, no, when you're at the low tables, they're like, I'm using Clodsire because I like it. And I'm like, respect, It
was there. It's definitely fun. It's definitely fun. So if it wasn't for the fact that I'm still holding on to like that 0.1% chance I could get a Worlds invite, I'd enjoy it a lot more. But I'm still at the point where I'm like, if I get points at some point, I can maybe. But yeah. But other than that, like, the low tables are so much fun. Anyone who's ever worried about going to a regional and not doing well, you're going to have so much more fun at those bottom tables than anywhere else in the tournament. I promise you.
I'm happy we have the same thought on it, because I did have a lot of fun at the low tables in Charlotte. All my opponents were very nice. The general area was nice, and I got a lot of compliments on our podcast, which leads me to my next question. Do we have European OHKO fans?
A lot. It was so wholesome.
Really?
I have to say, because I was pretty bummed out on the day, right? Because, I'm a competitive person. I was bummed that I couldn't play better. I'm bummed that I didn't put enough work into the event. I was just kind of having a bad time. I was also just exhausted, right? But there's a lot of people that came up that were like, yo, like, I'm a really big fan of the podcast. Like, you two do good stuff. There was someone saying that on the way there, they had listened to the episode with Alex Underhill and was like, oh, it was such a good episode. And they're like, I have to watch like the newest one on my way back home. And it was really wholesome. Like, I don't think people realize, like, especially to like, or we could be busy people. I'm literally just got back. I'm recording yet again. Thank you so much to the Justins for popping in, so we can have a full podcast episode because it's already midnight at the time of recording. Like, we do like put a lot of work into this. We do try, even when there's ups and downs in life, to like make sure there's a podcast episode that goes out, and it's so wholesome just to hear the love that people have and listening and supporting. I don't know, it's cool. It definitely made me feel like, man, we need to get like stickers sooner rather than later at this point.
We need
like
stickers.
We need some stickers, man. That would be so cool.
Because it's so tough because, like, you know, like Chip and Azul with the TCG podcast, they have dice or like V-Star counters or something like that. But like, what do we have that we can like appeal to a VGC player? Like, some stickers, people don't want to put stickers on their Switch, right? You spend $300 on your Switch, you don't want to put a sticker on it. Like,
don't put the sticker on the Switch, just put it wherever.
I know what I'm saying. There are uncommon energy listeners that can practically use the tools of their favorite podcasts, either it being dice or V-Star markers or other types of practical things to show their support for the pod. What can we do VGC wise that is also OHKO related that VGC players can have practical support of us at an event?
I think we need to walk before we can run. I've had ideas for what stickers we can have ever since we came up with the name OHKO, and we have still not actually figured out anything closer. We have not actually decided. We've not been on the same page. I vote we figure that one out first, and then we like figure out like ruling the world. Especially too, I think it would be so cute to have 2 different sets of stickers for the podcast, and I have a set of them and you have a set of them. So it's like, if you want both types of stickers, you have to see both of us, you know? And then it's kind of like,
cool idea.
Yeah, I think that's kind of cute. So,
but don't we have to decide on a logo first? Because aren't we still using our just like, we'll figure our logo out later logo? And here we are, episode 22. We're still figuring it out later.
I like her current logo. I do like I don't know if I want to spoil it, or do I spoil it so people can like bully
I don't even know what you're
into
spoiling.
allowing it. Do you not remember the logo concept I gave for stickers way back was kind of like having them themed after like
no. Yes, I remember. I didn't know that's what you were talking about.
Oh,
I thought you were talking about our I thought you were talking about our general logo first.
Oh,
not
no.
the sticker one. No spoilers.
All right. Okay, no spoilers. And it's no spoilers because we're going to do that, right?
It's no spoilers, so there's no proof of it on the internet, you know?
That is the attitude. I will leak it right now so we can have people harass you. Because I think this idea is fire.
Or,
you know, we'll ask Juancho.
Or cool.
We'll ask
or
Juancho.
cool. Yeah, Juancho. What's he going to say? I understand both sides. That's what Juancho's going to say.
We love Juancho. We love Juancho.
He's the best. He is truly the best.
He is the best. But yeah, real quick, back to Liverpool. Yeah, Liverpool was absolutely amazing. Genuinely, with the love and care that went into the event, I will be returning to every Liverpool regional that I can. And I actually very seriously want to look at going to more European events, because it was actually that good of a time. I know there's an event in Italy the week before NAIC.
Oh, don't do that to yourself.
Whew, I do be tempted though.
No, because that's LA to you'd go to Europe to New Orleans. That's tough.
Oh, because LA is 2 weeks before. All right, I have to think about this. I just said I would never do it again, but like, I don't know. That would be heat. That would be pretty good.
Never again. Moments later, I might do it again.
I might do. I don't learn. But it was fun. So yeah, and I'm very excited for the box draft and ability. Like, it'll be, I promise you, I'm putting some effort into this. Like, this is gonna be sick. I've always wanted to, because TCG, because you played TCG a bit, you do the cubes that the TCG players have. I think that's so cute that they have this game that they can come together over, and their event ends, and they go into a hotel lobby and they sit and they cube, and it's just so wholesome. And what do we have for VGC players? Nothing. You can
literally,
open up.
I mean, I guess if people bring like an old black and white, Nintendo DS or something, I guess is the only close thing.
But like, it's just like, I will say, on Sunday, we were doing metronome battles on their Switches. We got a rental, and there was 4 of us doing these metronome battles in the multi-battle style. So we each got to bring 3 Pokemon, and we had teams. That was so much fun. So much fun. Like, and I have to say, me and Peachy won both times, which was absolutely amazing. And some of the rolls are just so goofy. Like, we flattered, like, a special attack version of Swagger. Sandvy's take a ton, like, 4 times, like, in a single match or something. Like, silly things, right? Like, it's a lot of fun. But besides that, we don't have anything. So I feel like this box draft could be pretty cool. So you'll understand. You'll understand.
No, I'm excited. I think it's a cool idea. And plus, even if you want, like, if you don't want to extend it out to the full audience, like, the casters all bring their Switches to every event, right? So, like, while the TCG casters are cubing, the VGC casters could be doing this.
We could be doing our box draft, yeah. So that'll be hopefully done in a month. I have to create sets and get all of these Pokemon. Oh my goodness, that'll be a lot of work. But yeah, I know you and the Justins did talk for a while, so definitely don't want to be adding on too much longer to this.
Brain is a little fried, can confirm.
Yeah, so my understanding is you didn't answer the question of the day for yourself, so we could answer it at the end of the podcast as per the usual.
Correct. Had a nice little tease for the audience. If they wanted to hear my answer, they had to wait for it.
They had to wait. That's how you get them, right? All right, reminder to mostly myself. I'm assuming people wouldn't skip to the end of the podcast. But the question, what's that one Pokemon that's your Brainworm Mon, where regardless of the format, the Mon is available to find its way in the team builder at least once during the process? So what were the others' answers?
So yeah, Justin Burns ended up saying, oh my god, why am I blinking on Frostmoth? He said he keeps trying. Yeah, like he tried to bring Frostmoth onto multiple teams in Sword and Shield because he's like, oh, it has Wide Guard and for Kyogre and stuff like this. And then in Scarlet and Violet, Frostmoth is in the regional deck. So for Regulation A, he was trying to make Frostmoth work, and all his friends, he said, stop trying to make Frostmoth a thing. It's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
And then Justin Carris said slow bro, but he also likes slow king. Both of the water slows. And then he just like trashed the Galarian versions for no reason. Like they just got a huge stray.
I think respectively so. No, the designs kind of are.
I think they're cool. I think the Galarian versions are cool.
I think about it. All right, what's your answer?
So I have two different ones to answer the general question. Regardless of format, ever since 2017, I have tried to put a Alolan Ninetales onto any team, especially if you have a setup mon, right? If you have a Swords Dance, you have a Calm Mind, you have something where you're trying to sweep through. I'm like, oh, what would help this Urshifu with Swords Dance if I put Ninetales next to it, and then it's not as frail and it can click Swords Dance and live a hit and all, and it just. I got it to work one time pretty well, but besides that, especially in Sword and Shield, really tough to make Alolan Ninetales work. However, the same strategy, essentially, I use Gmax Lapras most of Sword and Shield because it's effectively the same strategy where when you click I can't remember, it's Gmax attack, but when it hits, it sets up Aurora Veil. So I guess Aurora Veil Pokemon is my answer, is my Brainworm Pokémon. This specific Regulation F of me testing for Charlotte, about the 10 different times that I tried to make a team, some of them I sent to you and Jake, and others. I tried to put Latios on every single version as just a fast Pokemon that can one-shot Lando Eye, either as its original typing with Ice Beam, or if it used Terra Poison and using it with Luster Purge. So, but I think Latios is so good, but like there's so much Fluttermane, there's so much Draco from Archaludon and Raging Bolt, so it was always tough.
It's just existing at the wrong time. Can't compete. Can't compete with those Flutters. I have to say, for myself, so first off, I don't team build too much, which is actually, funny enough, one of those big reflections after Liverpool where I was like, you know what, even if the teams are dog, I need to be team building more. Just kind of get used to building something. And I'm hoping maybe I can like build myself a pretty terrible team and then ladder with it like on stream or something, and then like go through that process. Basically go back to basics, right? So I don't team build too often, so that one's yeah. Of course, the answer that people are going to expect here is Slitherwing coming out from things, for obvious reasons. I do, like, meme around with, like, different Slitherwing versions, like, what could maybe work. I don't maybe put as much effort into it as people would expect, going back to the I don't team build sort of thing. But I have talked at length with friends at events, like, oh, what about this cracked Slitherwing team? What about Choice Band Slitherwing with First Impression? Because they always have to respect that you can first impression them, but then you can just bring the Slitherwing in, instantly swap out for something now that can put on pressure, or like a fake out user, or like you predict that they're going to protect on your fake out and you bring in Slitherwing. Now they have to go for the double or else they're going to get a choice band first impression in the face, right? And like dumb stuff like that. Also talked to Boyt about like, you know what would be the most viable Slitherwing set? So there's that.
You went straight to the source of odd building.
Straight to the source. Another one though, which I really did want to work more in Sword and Shield. I'm excited when it does come out in Scarlet and Violet, is Ho-Oh. I think Ho-Oh is just a pretty cool Pokemon. The fact that it gets Regenerator, I feel like that synergy with Amoonguss is really awesome. I think that it struggled with Sword and Shield at a point because of its typing, which, whoa, Scarlet and Violet, you can get out of the bad typing. So I think that there might actually be a better place for that. I also think in Dynamax format, it just kind of wasn't too great, which obviously we're out of that. So that would be the Pokemon answer that I did actually really want to make work. That was actually the meme before. Like, there's always something going on with Sierra, and during Sword and Shield, it was, oh, Sierra and her Ho-Oh team, Sierra and her Ho-Ohs, you know? But, that'd be when it comes out. That's definitely, it'll be returning to that, because I do want that to work so bad. I just, like, I don't know. It seems good. It seems good. I even had, in TCG, I was building around Ho-Oh. The first, like, deck that I built that I was super proud of myself, it was pretty bad deck. It was, this Ho-Oh that you needed 3 different energies on to attack, and a 4th, you could heal 50 damage from your Ho-Oh per turn. And then you put a tool on it that allows you to do 10 more damage and gives you 40 more health, and you actually hit like some pretty good numbers if you doubled up into it. And then you're playing a Pokemon that could allow you to swap out the energy. So if you didn't actually have the proper energy on, you could swap it out. And yeah, it was not a great deck, but I was going to locals and stuff with that, and I was tearing up my locals with this deck. And then when a better Ho-Oh came out, the Ho-Oh Kiawe deck, I ended up playing that at Portland Regionals, way back in like 2017 or something. And I think I went 5-4, 6-3 with it. Like, I was good with the deck. Unfortunately, there was a nasty deck out that was all basic Pokemon, and it shut down basic Pokemon, and this Ho-Oh deck was unfortunately basic Pokemon. It was the perfect counter team into it. It was meant to counter other stuff, coincidentally also countered my team, so it is what it is. But
I think Ho-Oh could be interesting when GS Cup comes back because of the Terra. Like, that typing has been what's held it back for so long. And then obviously Dynamax, like you're getting hit by neutral max airstreams and it hurts. But yeah, I think there could probably be a world it gets Calm Mind, I know that. Is there a world you can have like a really nice defensive Terra and then you Calm Mind boost or like substitute leftover, something like, you know, I think Ho-Oh could work.
Ho-Oh's interesting because the typing has held it back. It also gets access to things like Sacred Fire. Its attack is actually better than its special attack. So the other thing that kind of holds it back is it is prone to being Intimidate spammed, which has been like, so it's kind of like trying to overcome quite a few things. There's quite a few allegations it has to beat out there, but like its special defense is really strong. Its defense is kind of lacking. So I'd be looking at something other than a sort of a Calm Mind thing, because I feel like just what it gets access to on the other end is better. Also, if you're trying to take advantage of Regenerator, then all of a sudden you're not going to want to sit there and kind of build up the other sort of moves. But like it gets stuff like even Recover if you're sitting there on the field. Like it's just, I don't know. I think it's a cool Pokemon. It does get Substitute. It has access to Will-O-Wisp, Tailwind, though you're not going to be throwing that on there. Like it's, I don't know. It's a cool Pokemon. I'm just imagining like a Stab Brave Bird, and then you could swap out into an Amoonguss. Like you heal back all that recoil you took from Brave Bird. You get your Amoonguss, like, I don't know. I just like, or like even swap out to Instant. I think there's possibilities.
Maybe Clear Amulet with Recover works the same way as like
we got
the leftovers, right? So you don't have to worry about Intimidate. We'll cook.
Yeah, that's probably a couple months away, assuming, because I think we're getting GS for Worlds, right? I don't imagine what else we'd be getting for Worlds.
I don't know. Listen, man, I have no idea what's happening at this point. I think anything could. I don't think World should be GS. I think GS Cup should be next year's format. Should be the third year.
What are we gonna do till then?
We still don't have the Tapus. There are other Pokemon that are missing from the game, so we still don't have a true national Dex format. Like if I was in charge of Game Freak, which I'm not, I would make Worlds the full national Dex of whatever's not available in the game right now, and then next year is all one legendary, two legendaries. Spend 2 months of 2 legendaries, no Terra, 1 legendary, no Terra, whatever you want to do.
Not that BS. Absolutely not.
You know what's happening. You know it's happening.
No. I will perish. That does not sound good. But we'll have to see past this World. Once we know this World's, it'll be a couple months till we probably hear the format. Because this format was supposed to last 4 months, right? So yeah, we'll probably know in like a month and a bit what the next format is.
I think so, yeah. It'll be am I crazy? Is EUIC this format or is it the next format? I think it's this format, EUIC, right? It's Regulation F. Am I crazy?
I think I don't know.
I'm so tired, Sierra.
I don't know. Yeah, no, we'll wrap this up. I know this has been a long episode, so anyone who has made it to this point is still listening. Thank you so much. You are a trooper. Let us know as well. Just like not let us know, like send some love for our guests. Definitely do appreciate them stepping in, and I'm excited to hear that part of the podcast myself. Make sure as well for things like Question of the Week, general OHKO news, and just chatting with the NOS community to be joining the OHKO Discord, and of course be following on socials for any other related updates. Anybody who is traveling out to Knoxville this weekend, hopefully you have some safe travels. You get the best of luck and you have a great time at the regional. And as for everyone else, we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.